I'd like to call to order the August 17th meeting of the Conestoga Valley School Board. I'd like to welcome everyone here. I'd like to say all in our attendance with the exception of Mr. Smucker. If you could all please join me for the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Board, I need a motion to approve our agenda tonight.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have an agenda.
Test.
Dr. Z, any comments tonight?
Yes, Mr. President. We've hired a number of outstanding educators over the summer and would like to introduce them, a few of them tonight, so you can put a name to a face. I'd like to start off with first introducing Liz Krantz. Liz is a Penn State grad, our new math specialist at Fritz Elementary. In addition to being an experienced public school educator, Liz is also a health educator at Penn Medicine LGH and has even been featured in as a virtual presenter to Lancaster County School Districts with a professional development session entitled Strategies to Keep the Calm in Difficult Times. How apropos. Liz, if you wouldn't mind just standing up and introducing yourself, please.
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Lindsay Chillot is a Shippensburg University graduate with teaching experience in Harrisburg, Lancaster, and Manheim Township. She'll be joining the high school faculty as our new teacher of English language learners. Welcome, Lindsay. If you don't mind standing up, please.
Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to work here at this great district. I'm very excited to be a part of it.
Awesome. Welcome.
Byron Allison is a non-traditional educator earning a bachelor's degree in finance and marketing from the University of Pittsburgh, and 6 years later, a master's degree in special education from Mansfield University. An educator with experience in North Central PA and South Central New York, we're excited to welcome Byron as our new emotional support teacher at the high school. Byron.
Nice to be over. Thank you for the opportunity and look forward to this career.
Welcome.
And finally, Dr. Mike Smith has been chosen as our new principal at the high school. With 15 years of experience, Mike comes to us with 10 years of principal experience, 6 years at Warwick Middle School, and most recently 4 years at Columbia High School. Mike has earned a bachelor's degree in earth science from Penn State, where he was also the men's varsity swim team captain, and from where he cannot break his annoying habit of being a very, very early riser. His master's degree in educational administration from Loyola College of Maryland, and earned a doctorate in educational leadership from Immaculata University. I'd like to welcome Mike. He'll be voted on at the superintendent's report.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here, and I look forward to working with the staff and the community as we move forward. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Mike.
Board, there's also a couple of changes to the board agenda since it's posting on Friday. We've added attached recommendations to the health and safety plan for reopening. We've added some SOSL paras to the superintendent's report as noted in red. We've added an agenda item regarding sinkholes that Phyllis will be covering. And we've added an agenda item, which is the action for approval for Steps to Success, a before and after school care provider to take the place of Bright Horizons, who left abruptly. Phyllis and Kelly will be discussing that item when it comes up. That's all, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Z. Any correspondence from the secretary? All right. Any board comments tonight? All right. Hearing none. Comments from CVEA tonight? Sure.
Make sure. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Tara Flick. I will be starting my 24th year as a biology teacher, and I'm president of the Conestoga Valley Education Association. I first want to thank the board again for allowing me to speak last week, because I know you did not have to do so. I want to use this time to reiterate our request to begin our school year with a hybrid plan K through 12. As you saw tonight, Many people stood outside to show their support for this hybrid instructional model, as well as the hundreds of people who signed the petition that I sent to you this afternoon. On June 30th, a few teachers and some parents sat in this auditorium to discuss what was then the rough draft of the reopening plan. We were told that the district would not consider a hybrid plan and that students would be strongly encouraged to wear masks. We spent the bulk of that meeting explaining the importance of making masks mandatory. Only after the state's mandate did this board change the plan to include mandatory face coverings. On July 27th, I stood before you to request that we start the school year with a hybrid model. You discussed the value of teaching in person and that there's some risk in life that is essentially acceptable. You did not talk about or ask questions about the protocols that should be taken to make sure students, faculty, and staff are as safe as possible. You never asked how far apart will we be able to keep our students in our classrooms. You perhaps did not realize that by creating a plan where elementary teachers would need to be pulled to teach virtual classes, that this would in turn cause some class sizes to increase in a time when we want them to decrease. You voted and approved a reopening plan that would mean we would return to school fully in person with the virtual option available. Then last Monday, after PDE released guidelines that Lancaster County schools should use either a hybrid or a fully virtual model because the county is at moderate risk for COVID community spread, you ignored that recommendation. Last Friday, our administration asked a group of about 30 teachers to meet and discuss some other ideas to reduce the number of students in our buildings and classrooms. We debated the realities of live streaming and using a combination hybrid schedule and determined them to be less than ideal, very difficult to do well, and academically subpar. Perhaps more importantly, it was widely agreed that only a few students would choose any of these options, and so it would fail to actually reduce our class sizes by more than a student or two. In other words, the options were absolutely inadequate. So I stand here tonight to again ask you to consider starting our school year in a K-12 hybrid model per PDE guidelines. There are really only two major areas for you to consider as you make this decision: health and safety and academics. We can all agree that the teaching model in fully in person would be ideal in terms of academics. As I've said before, we desperately want to teach in person and fully. We just want to do it safely. Let's look at the health and safety aspect. In order to do that, we will follow the science. We will look to the doctors, scientists, and epidemiologists and the evidence they gather, not opinions. During the past two board meetings, you have discussed acceptable risks and the severity of this disease. So let me put my biology teacher hat on for a moment. According to PennDOT, a little over 1,000 people died from car accidents in 2019. About 5 months ago, Pennsylvania reported its first fatality due to COVID. We now have a little over 7,000 deaths due to COVID. That's a 700% increase compared to car accidents. That should be an unacceptable risk. COVID-19 has also been related to influenza by this board. According to the CDC, 34,200 people died last flu season, 2018-19. But 168,696 have died from COVID, and that's only since February. The University of Washington, whose analytical models are used by the CDC and by the White House, predict that we could have 300,000 deaths by the end of this year. Another comparison is the flu pandemic of 1918, which began in the spring of 1918. During that pandemic, it was estimated that 675,000 Americans died. A large part of those deaths occurred in the second wave. We've heard a lot about second waves. So much so back then, in October 2018, just in 1 month, they lost 165,000 people in 1 month in their second wave. We will be dealing with both a flu and COVID-19 this season upcoming. It will not be pretty. COVID-19 is a novel virus, which effectively means that we have not previously been exposed to it, and we are therefore obviously not immune to it. COVID-19 spreads quickly through droplets that we release when we talk, cough, sneeze, laugh, etc. Wearing a cloth mask helps to capture the droplets and slow them from spreading and infecting others. This is where the 6-foot social distancing comes into play. Studies have shown that 6 feet is the average distance that puts us out of range from someone else's droplets. We can be thankful that in children, COVID-19 is less likely to cause severe illness and death compared to adults. However, that does not mean that children are safe. COVID-19 can cause multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children, a blight rarely. On Friday, Dr. Lindsay Kim et al. Released their findings regarding hospitalizations of children with COVID from 14 states between March 1st and July 25th. This was from the CDC. The good news, they found most infections in children below 18 years of age are asymptomatic or mild. Nevertheless, they also found that children, and I quote, can develop severe COVID-19 illness. This study showed that children with underlying health conditions like obesity, lung disease, and prematurity, as well as Hispanic and Black children, have the highest rates of hospitalizations. Dr. Kim also acknowledged that the rates of COVID-positive children were beginning to drastically increase at the end of the study's time frame, so basically the end of July. Children can and do spread this virus, and because they may be asymptomatic, they will spread COVID to their teachers, their friends, and their families unknowingly. And we, of course, know that this disease is far worse in adults. We also know that the long-term effects in all people, even children who are asymptomatic, are not yet completely understood. Georgia Tech University has an interactive tool to predict the risk of attending an event based on current real-time data. The risk level is the percent chance that at least one person is COVID positive in a group. For Lancaster County, if you have a group of 25, the risk level is 24%. A group of 50 has a risk level of 42%, and a group of 100 people has a risk of 66%. And for any group larger than 500, the risk is 99%. I'm pretty sure that every building at CV has at least 500 kids in it. This graphically shows how smaller groups are safer, and again, why the hybrid model is ideal for safety. By limiting the size of groups, you limit the exposure risk and therefore the risk of larger outbreaks. We do not want to infect our students with COVID. We do not want to be infected by students who have COVID. And we definitely do not want to take COVID home to our families and infect them. We know you cannot offer us a risk-free environment, but you can offer us a much safer environment with the hybrid model. The only way to slow the spread of this virus is to wear cloth face masks, maintain 6-foot social distancing, and wash your hands. The only way to achieve that 6-foot distance in our classrooms is to follow a hybrid instructional model. The hybrid model will reduce our class sizes in half. As I spoke about the health and safety aspects, I asked you to follow the science. Now we should look at the academics, and please consider your teachers, your experts. There are several ways a hybrid model can be implemented. Teachers would be in school each day, but students would be split equally into 2 groups, each receiving in-person teaching and at-home learning. There are several ways to do this, alternating every other day, every 2 days, every week. There's even a model out there that alternates it every 2 weeks, because that's roughly a quarantine period. As an example, if we teach in an A-B schedule, we teach our A group in person and send them home with assignments to do in their at-home day. These assignments would be like an extensive version of homework. They can include, but are not limited to, review, practice, independent work, virtual assignments, watching videos of new instruction for a flipped classroom, and even virtual group work. Thanks to Dr. Mann several years ago, we started training in the rotational model. This is an extension of the rotational model for us, and we can do this. The beauty of this, in my personal opinion, is that kids would not necessarily have to be at their computers to do this work. They could be, depending on the work, but they wouldn't have to be. And quite honestly, I don't know why anybody wants kids to sit at a computer for 6 hours a day. Obviously, While Group A is working on their at-home assignments, teachers would be in school teaching the B group, and then the cycle would continue. You have discussed the value of in-person education, especially for our more vulnerable students, students with IEPs and students who have English as their second language. In a hybrid model, we will still teach these students in person, but it would be every other day. Anecdotally, we have found that many of these same groups of students are choosing our fully virtual option because they often overlap with children who are more at risk of developing severe illness of COVID, and/or come from multi-generational households who have grandparents who live with them and are themselves at high risk. Again, we are your experts in education, and we are telling you that we can make this hybrid model work and that we will do it exceedingly well. We want to teach fully in person when it is safer to do so. When Lancaster County is at low risk for at least 2 weeks per the PDE, then we will feel safer about going back to school fully in person. All kids. We will follow the science and we will abide by PDE guidelines. It is our hope that a hybrid model will delay us being told that we must go fully virtual. We want to avoid going fully virtual. We didn't like it, you didn't like it, kids don't like it. Let's not rush right into something that's going to force us to do that, because that's what's headed for us. If you watch the news, you see outbreaks all over, everywhere school is opening. You have a tough decision to make, but we are asking you to do so based on evidence, science, and expertise, and not opinions. We ask that you consider a delay to the start of school so that we are better prepared as a district for the challenges that we face. Your current proposed plan involves multiple elementary teachers needing to change their positions, most middle school teachers needing to teach a new virtual section, and many high school teachers having to teach students in person and virtually at the same time. If you insist on sending us back fully in person, you will simply hasten the development of larger and more numerous outbreaks and make it more likely that we must close school and switch to a fully virtual option. We want you to consider the health and safety as well as the academics. PDE has guidelines for schools based on real COVID data from our county. PDE recommends a hybrid or a fully virtual model in Lancaster County schools. Your teachers are telling you that we can offer a robust instruction in the hybrid model and address the needs of our students. Please follow the science and listen to your experts. I do want to mention that I listed several concerns and questions during the July 27th meeting and have not received many answers regarding them. In fact, the list keeps growing. This is not an all-inclusive list, but it gives you an example of what we don't know. What specific accommodations and other safety measures will be offered to teachers who are at risk or have family members who are at risk for severe COVID illness? How many teachers have needed to request a leave, and will we have substitutes for them? Exactly how are we going to handle contact tracing and quarantine of students and teachers? Will teachers who are quarantined and not sick be able to teach from home? Our current custodial staff struggles to meet ordinary cleaning needs, so how will they be able to do the additional cleaning and sanitization of our rooms as they should without needing additional help? Will the district share with all stakeholders a schedule of cleaning for each building that includes specifics of where and when sanitizing takes place every day? If a COVID case has been confirmed, will the district also share the additional cleaning protocols that will be taken? We think we should have 2 nurses per building to address the additional responsibilities and pressures that they will have in treating potential cases and students with symptoms that could be COVID. Again, remember the flu season is coming and the symptoms are all but identical. Do you have plans to give our health room professionals additional help so that principals or other personnel do not have to be pulled from their duties to help nurses cover the COVID breakout space? We are concerned that substitutes will not want to work in a building where there's an outbreak. Do we have guarantees that from SOSL that substitutes are in place to fill the positions needed? If not, are there plans for other district personnel to provide coverage so that already stressed teachers do not have to cover these absences as we've had in the past? We are worried about traveling teachers who are exposed to different buildings and could spread COVID to different buildings. What additional safeguards have been put in place for those traveling teachers who are at increased risk? What specifically will the district do if a student refuses to wear a mask and it is not because of a documented reason? We are concerned about our poor HVAC systems and how often filters will be placed. Will the district provide all stakeholders a professional evaluation of the current condition of each building's HVAC capabilities as it relates to proper ventilation needed for COVID safety? Will the district also provide stakeholders the timeline of filter replacement for each building? We are concerned about students eating breakfast in classrooms. Obviously, they will need to remove their masks to do that. How do we keep them and the students and faculty around them safe if they are not seated anywhere close to 6 feet apart? As I've said, these questions are just the tip of the iceberg. There are many more. I hope that you will seriously consider and discuss a hybrid schedule and a delay to the start of school so that these issues can be addressed. Again, I thank you for your time.
Any comments from any other employee groups? All right, this is the first time in our meeting for public comments. Again, we'll have comments available here. You can come to the mic here in the auditorium. We'll listen to your comments. Board, again, I remind you that this is not a Q&A. We'll merely listen and thanks. So public comments can start now. Go ahead.
Hello. Many of you know who I am, but I will introduce myself anyway. My name is Merle Esch, and I live at 2404 Willow Glen Drive in Lancaster. I came this evening not to express my opinion, but rather to offer thanks and a prayer. To the board, thank you for serving during this difficult time and for giving of yourselves to the task at hand. I know firsthand that board service can be challenging, and I appreciate your thoughtfulness and your diligence. To the administration, thank you for providing direction to the best of your abilities and for keeping our district stable and safe. I invite you to join me in a moment of reflection and prayer. Father in heaven, I thank you for those you have placed in leadership in our lives. You promised in your word, if we need wisdom, we may ask, and you will generously give it. So tonight, we humbly ask for wisdom to navigate the path before us. Father, grant the members of this school board the ability to see clearly, to judge fairly, to serve with joy, and to lead with integrity. May they have special wisdom as they navigate the complex issue of governing a school district in a COVID environment. I also ask that you grant the members of this administration wisdom to correctly prepare and manage the education and the safety of our staff and students in this coming school year. May they be able to hear your gentle voice clearly above the din of daily news stories, opposing stances, and dissenting opinions. Father, grant our teachers and support staff wisdom as they prepare for the daily tasks at hand. I also ask for courage, safety, and peace for this group of frontline employees. Bless them with creative minds to make the most of the days that we have been given. Thank you for the promise that we can cast our cares on you because you care for us. Lastly, I bring the entire student body at Conestoga Valley before you. May you also give wisdom generously to our students. Give them courage and daily strength to live life abundantly in this new environment. May they be quick to extend courtesy towards other students and staff. Father, hear us from heaven and heal this land. I boldly ask for all these things in the precious name of Jesus. Amen. May the Lord bless you and protect you. May the Lord smile on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord show you his favor and give you his peace.
You can, that microphone there will work as well, sir. The one right up there.
Right there?
Yes, sir. Nope, not working.
Hold on a second.
I think it's now. Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you. I'm father of 2 daughters in the school, and I'm also scientist. And I also work in pharmaceutical in the last 20 years. So just a quick example, or short, make it short for you. There's no vaccine until next summer. No whatsoever, any pharmaceutical company, until this moment, can make vaccine to protect our children and us in short time, as we heard in the news. So this is one. Two, I read the plan for CV, and I'm also auditor. I looked, there's no risk assessment for this plan. I don't know how can you protect my 2 daughters in the hallway. The hallway in any school, it's very much like sardine can. It's no way, one person can make sick for the whole school. And I just don't get it, how people like you, I know I appreciate your public service, but you're not really thinking outside the box. What's the point you start next week and then you close the school the following week? Wouldn't think, all of us, we need to school start and we have 6 days, not even 5 days. As a parent, yeah, let's go for 6 days. I'll be the first one. But it's so risky for our children, for us, for the teacher. How are you going to make sure the teacher is going to be safe and healthy all the time? Look to the school, other state. They open and they close. Why don't you just try to use logic, common sense, open or online, have a plan so you can continue with them, help them, and finish until we have vaccine, which is not going to happen until next summer. Why you want to start and stop? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, start over. You're wasting time and ruining the kids' real education system. I just don't understand that. Thank you.
Sir, can you tell me your name and address?
Sure. My name is Wagi Gerges. My address is 76 Ridgeview Drive, Leola, Pennsylvania.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a reminder for the public, yes, please give us your name and your address so we know where you're from. Thank you, sir. We'll go to the side then.
Hello. Am I on? My name is Laura Hartlaub. My address is 671 Mill Cross Road, Lancaster, 17601. I'm here tonight because I heard that last week that there were more people speaking out against hybrid than for it, so I came to express that I would be very interested in that. The plan that was presented last week looked awesome to me. I was very excited. I'm not fearful of sending my kids to school. I want my kids to go to school, and that's why I wouldn't choose CVVA. But I don't want school to get closed down, like he said, 2 weeks after it opened. I would like to see us do a hybrid and make sure that our kids can stay in school for as long as possible this year. I liked the hybrid plan that was presented last week because it reduced class sizes. I feel that reducing class sizes is the way to help teachers and students practice social distancing, keep them healthy, and keep our schools open. Reduced class sizes will allow for more mask breaks. It could also be a way for us to ease our kids. My children have not been in large groups, so imagine sending my 10-year-old into a room of 23 when I haven't allowed her to be with more than 2 people that are not our family this whole summer. I think will be scary for her. I think 10 for the first couple weeks, and then you could bring the rest in after we see that no one was spreading anything. I do understand that the hybrid schedule is hard for many families, but I think that closing school suddenly is even harder on all of us. I would really like you to offer us an in-school option that meets the guidelines recommended by the Department of Health. And then, that's all I wrote down, but as I was coming in tonight and saw the teachers out there, I just thought, I'm just asking you to trust the teachers and the administrators, because even beyond parents, we think we know what goes on in school from what our kids tell us, but we have no idea all the little things that go on. And our principals, who have all been teachers in the past, and our teachers are the only ones who know the real way to keep our kids safe in the school setting. Thank you.
We'll come to this side.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Affadani. I live at 318 Little Creek Road, Lancaster. I have 2 teenage daughters that will be at CV High School, and my concern is that, there's always a risk involved in everything that we do. And the organization called the CDC said to mitigate risk, wear masks, wash your hands frequently, and social distance. The CDC is a scientific organization. I'm not saying that there's no politics involved, but that's what the CDC recommends. And I hope there is some sort of plan like that at CV High School. I mean, maybe I haven't been paying that much attention, but I haven't quite seen that yet. But that's what the CDC recommends. Now, the PD is a political organization, and they have an agenda. They don't look at all the data. They look at the facts that fit their agenda. The American Academy of Pediatrics is for a full return to school. Both of my kids' pediatricians had said they need to get back to school. That's what the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends. Again, any way to mitigate risk, I'm all for. But we've been out of lockdown since spring, and children have been going, and other individuals have been going to Walmart, Target, Wawa, Sheetz, all kinds of different places. Europe went back to school in the spring. Denmark was locked down for a month and returned to school after a month. Asia is back in school. The rest of the world is back in school. Kids have been playing contact sports without masks, breathing on each other and touching each other all summer long. Where's the outbreak? I don't know, yes, cases will rise, they will. That's obviously going to happen because more people are going to get it. We're getting better at managing the disease, we're getting better at treating the disease, and we're seeing less deaths. The job of the lockdown and to close schools was to flatten the curve, which is what we did.
Sir,
Okay.
you had your opportunity.
When I was a child, I had spinal meningitis. I almost died. My mom almost died of the flu this year. She had a flu vaccine, by the way, but she still almost died. The most at-risk children for poor outcomes in life are the ones that need to be here, and they're not going to be getting the interventions they need and the education they deserve and have the right to get if we're not in school. I have a child who's extremely ADHD. She is not going to learn if she's not in school. She's an extroverted child. She needs to be stimulated in a classroom, not looking at a computer screen, not sitting down at a desk. I don't know. There's ways to mitigate risk. The rest of the world has done it. Let's be smart. I believe that you guys are smart enough to figure out how to mitigate the risk. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Fowler. I live at 2107 Mallard Drive. In addition to being a resident of the district, I'm also an employee. I've had a long relationship with the district, and over the years I've felt I could trust administrators and school board members to make decisions that put students first. I'm calling on you to make sure that you continue to do that by developing a hybrid plan for opening school. The current back-to-school plan promises classroom occupancy that allows for 6 feet of separation among students and staff throughout the day to the maximum extent feasible. If you visited our building, you would see that you've made a promise that we can't keep. There is not enough physical space in our classrooms to do this. In most cases, students will barely be 3 feet apart. Many of those students eat breakfast at school. In order to avoid crowds in the cafeteria, the plan is for students to eat breakfast in their classrooms, obviously without masks, where they're not adequately spaced. With a full roster, there's just not enough physical space to spread out students as recommended by epidemiologists and infectious disease experts. Over the last few weeks, as more and more families were making the decision to enroll elsewhere, our rosters were shrinking and physical distancing was becoming more feasible. It was feeling like we were going to be able to do this. Then on Tuesday, we were informed that we should prepare for some teachers to be reassigned to the virtual academy, and the remaining teachers would absorb those rostered students. That puts our class sizes right back up into the range where it will be impossible to spread kids out 6 feet apart. Now, I imagine you rejected the idea of hiring additional teachers to staff the virtual academy because of cost, but have you considered the costs of having a student or staff member become seriously ill? What happens when our district-funded insurance has to pay the medical bills of a staff member? Fairhealth.org estimates that about 15% of adults who develop COVID will need hospital care, and the average cost of that care is $38,000. And worse yet, what happens if a student gets seriously ill? What happens to us emotionally? And what happens if they decide to sue the district because we are not following the guidelines that were given to us by the CDC and PDE? Tara already talked to you about Georgia Tech's tool. If you have not explored that on your own, I really encourage you to take the time to do it. It's really eye-opening to see that statistically, every single building in our district is going to start day one with at least one positive case. And if we cannot physically distance, we are going to have an outbreak. I'm urging you to consider starting school under a hybrid model so that we can physical distance on our buses, in our classrooms. And I want to point out that our district mission statement, which we just spent so long figuring out what our vision was and what we wanted that vision statement to be, it says that we expect a safe learning environment. We need to do what we say we're going to do. Now, I know that for many families, for some families, a virtual model is completely feasible, or a hybrid model is completely feasible. For other families, it's a great hardship. And I would really like to see you think outside of the box about what happens for students on the days when they are out of the building. I see great potential for calling on community, businesses, churches, and families to provide spaces where we can implement the practices that we're talking about. I can imagine a plan that connects with our vision statement of forming community partnerships. And in that plan, students would have the option of meeting at an off-site location where they could complete their online work or their homework under the guidance of temporary staff, of volunteers. I'm sure we can figure it out. They could be assigned to locations based on their homerooms so that we still maintain their bubbles as much as possible. I know we are able to figure this out. We are smart enough people that we can do it. I know this is difficult and costly, and that's why the board needs to think about tapping into our reserve. We've got a really healthy reserve fund. And we need to be advocating at the state and the federal level to get the funding we need to keep our children safe. We cannot just do the minimum here. I wish more than anything that we could start school as usual and go back to normal. I know lots of people are praying for us. I just heard it tonight. I hope that we're lucky and get through this without illness. But our reopening plan should not be based on hopes or prayers or wishful thinking. It needs to be based on science and math and our current community situation. I want to be able to look at my neighbors in the eye and tell them that our district's plan will keep their children as safe as possible. But I can't do that right now because I know the reality. I urge you to open schools under a hybrid model. Thank you.
This side.
Hello, my name is Zachary Gregg. I am 22 years old. I am an alumnus of Conestoga Valley as of 2016. I live at 6 Geist Road, Lancaster, 17603. So as I said, I graduated that building about a quarter mile that way in 2016. That was the same year that Mr. Pritchard passed away. and it hurt this community. It hurt me. And it sent shockwaves through everyone. I didn't have a personal relationship with Mr. Pritchard, but I won't forget the day finding out, sitting in homeroom crying with the rest of my classmates. That day changed a lot for us, and it spawned the CV Strong slogan. It changed a lot about how we thought about community, how we thought about what we were going to do for one another. And my father has worked in this district for 30 years. Since my brother was 1 year old in 1989, my father has worked at Smoketown School District in the art department for 30 years. He has served his community. He has done everything in his power to make sure that kids grow up in a healthy and safe space. My dad, on average, sees 500 to 600 students a week. That was when I left home in 2016. I don't know what the number is now, but I'm sure it's still in that range, even under a slightly reduced model that the school board has proposed as of July 27th. My dad, in a week, will probably still see 400 to 500 students. Now, as many people have said, it only takes one case to spread throughout everything. 1 minute it's in Fritz, next minute it's in Brownstown, then it's in the middle school, then it's in the high school. Because as we know, and that happened to me, I was in elementary as both of my siblings were in high school. So it doesn't take much to go from an elementary to a high school to the middle school. And it spreads without symptoms. We have to be using our heads. This isn't something that it's red colored and that we can go, oh, it's there. It's everywhere. That's how we have to act with this. We have to be safe. And if that is how this community reacted to Mr. Pritchard passing away in 2016, and that was one life, imagine what's going to happen if we don't get this under control. How many teachers is it going to take for you to change your mind? How many students will have to lose their lung capacity into the rest of their life for us to change what we're doing? If we are CV Strong, we're caring about the next generation. We are moving forward. We are thinking forward for the people who aren't even born yet. That is what that means to me. Please, for the love of God, do not send my father into a wood chipper. If you kill my dad, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I know this. I'm here today for him, and I'm here today for my two little nieces who are in another school district, and you will not take him from me. This is not how this is going to go. We are going to pass this hybrid model, as we can see from the community and from the teachers standing out there on that block. People want this. Do your job. You are elected to represent the people of this district. Please. Please. If it's not for my father, do it for all the other teachers, do it for all the students, do it for everybody in this district, because I don't want to have another Mr. Pritchard. Thank you.
Good evening. Chris Loopold, 96 Silver Birch Drive. Here speaking as a father of 3 school-age children and also a family physician for almost 20 years. COVID's here. I've been dealing with it every day. And while our cases are decreasing in our long-term care facilities, it's increasing in the community. As I'm sitting here at the meeting, I'm texting with a patient whose sats are dropping, and we're deciding whether he's going to get admitted. It's out there. As others have said, it's going to get into school. The models have showed it. Had all kinds of science written down. Mrs. Flick, thank you. You saved my breath. I don't have to say a lot of this. I think one thing you need to be aware of if you're not, and Dr. Morris from Penn so eloquently had stated this, no other country during this pandemic has tried to open schools with the viral levels anywhere near what we have in the U.S. right now. The schools that have opened in other countries that have succeeded have dramatically lower levels than what we have. The countries that have failed, Israel being a prime, have quite a bit lower levels than what we have now. Now is not the time to reopen and fill these classrooms with students. We need to go to a hybrid model so that we can space these children apart, because as others have stated, People are going to come into the school from day one with COVID. If we can space them apart, if we can mask them, if we can wash hands, we can run as a school. But to do that, we need a hybrid model. Thank you.
This side?
Hi, my name is Shanice Filbert. My address is 226 Basswood Drive, Lancaster, PA 17602. I am a parent of 5 school-age children, and today I'm here just to voice my concern and honestly my frustrations with the lack of preparation that's gone into this school year and plans. I have been made aware that my children will be in classroom sizes well up to 23, 24 children, and it's going to physically be impossible for them to socially distance themselves. In return, I was told that they would be able to have multiple mask breaks, but given the amount of children that will be in the room, they will not have that opportunity. They will try and go outside as much as possible, but if it rains, if there's so many other scenarios that could happen that wouldn't allow them to get outside, they're not going to be afforded that opportunity. What I'm concerned about is we are 2 weeks, a week potentially from start date, and we don't even have an exposure plan response. So we feel comfortable as a board to approve an opening of a school, and we don't even know how to properly handle an exposure or what we're going to do to handle an exposure. And maybe you have plans, but you haven't shared them with any parents or teachers for that matter. So I'm urging you to reconsider your plans. I'm urging you to choose a hybrid plan for K through 12, not just middle school and high school. If we're going to do a plan, we need to do it for everyone. I do have children, younger children. I don't just have 5, I have 3 smaller children whose immune systems are more compromised than my older children. And if they would get sick, they're not just going to deal with that themselves, they're exposing the entire family. It's all of us that will suffer. So please consider the hybrid option. I know that many parents are in favor of this. As you can see, there was a petition and many people have signed, and I'm just hoping that you guys would reconsider. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Nolt. I live at 77 Silver Birch Drive. My husband and I fully support a K-12 hybrid plan. Our daughter is going to be a junior at CV, and we have a son that will be a 5th grader at Fritz Elementary. And of course, they would very much like to get back to school and do it in person, but all of us feel it's not safe to go back to a 5-day schedule. If you feel like there is not time to implement a hybrid plan, we really strongly encourage you to also consider pushing back the beginning of the school year. We strongly feel like if even one member of the CV family gets sick because of an exposure at school, it's too many. Please abide by the governor's recommendation for when it's safer to hold in-person classes. As the school year start dates approach and the number of COVID cases in Lancaster are not decreasing, we really recommend that you adopt a hybrid model. Thank you.
Hi, my name is AJ Marwaha. I'm a physician in Lancaster, and I have 3 children between the middle school and the high school. I'm in favor of the hybrid plan, but also I would ask you guys to work on a more robust virtual academy so that we can have more advanced classes available. My kids are in honors, AP, and they have very limited options on the virtual academy. So they have to be in person in the schools all the time, as is currently the plan. They have no other options. I want my kids to be in school, to see other kids, to socialize, but I want them to be safe. And it's because COVID is real. It is killing my patients. It's not killing the vast majority of us, it's killing my patients. Diabetics, those with coronary artery disease, people with lung disease, I'm seeing them get hospitalized, get intubated, have prolonged ICU stays, and then expire without their families. It is the most tragic thing that I've seen in my 20-some years practicing medicine, and in the numbers. We have 3 Vietnams as far as the number of dead Americans in 6 months. 3 Vietnams already. This is going to be much worse. So I ask you guys to try to reduce the class sizes as much as possible, to take the safety of the community seriously, because CV will be the potential epicenter for virus spread within our community if we don't. Whatever we do, it is this, you guys are helping save lives of my patients in the community. And my colleagues, my nurses, they're actually getting infected as well, taking care of patients all the time. We're all masking 24/7 in the hospital. So if people who are older, who are taking care of the sick, can mask, then healthier people who are younger can certainly mask. And there are no cardiac or pulmonary contraindications that I know of for masking. So I would encourage that the state mandated masking policy be strictly adhered to in the schools. That if there are families, children who are not abiding by that, that it very much be adhered to. There should be repercussions. We have policies regarding short shorts, skin straps, and what kids can wear. So we can certainly have policies on wearing a mask to protect others, to protect the elderly population that I take care of. Thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Just step, make sure you're close enough.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. My name is Emily Walker. I have a son, Jaden, who is going to be a junior this year. And I do have extra masks. I'm a nurse in my car, if any of you who are not wearing them would like to put one on. I think it's a great idea if you are wanting the students to wear masks every day, and we are dead serious about this, wear the mask. Simple. It's disrespectful to all of us. Couldn't believe that I came out here and I see people without masks on. I feel that this is my responsibility to be here. As a nurse of 16 years and as a parent, to advocate for our teachers, the support staff, whom, without a doubt, deserve to feel safe while doing their jobs. At the beginning of COVID, I did not feel safe doing my job. I did not have enough PPE. I was not able to, use one mask one time. I had to reuse a mask several times. I didn't know if my patient was sick, not sick, take care of babies, pregnant women. I have 2 children of my own, one who fought his way through cancer and now is okay. But just the consideration aspect of it all. These teachers deserve to feel safe doing their job. They want to do their job safely. They want to teach. Right now is a hard time. We don't know what the future holds. The literature is constantly changing in all the journals. You may not believe it. Anecdotal evidence is this is not the time for that. This is the time to make good decisions for the population, the community that you serve. I honestly do not comprehend how even a 5-day school week is even on the table. We know that the virus replicates. We know that a large body of people serves as the giant vector for this virus. I was just at the outlets the other day. I couldn't go right in. I had to wait to go in an outlet because they're not letting more than 15 people in. We're socially distancing. We have masks. We're not trying on clothing. But here we are sending our kids back to school. We don't know enough. The studies are still, coming out, especially some of the more serious stuff, the vascular stuff. It's very scary. But we still have to, allow our kids to go to school, which is why I'm here for the hybrid model. I really do believe if we can cut the classroom size and do partially, some virtual stuff, at least for my son in high school, it would just be such instead of being here 5 days a week, I just think, why is that just not like a flashing bulb Makes perfect sense. It probably is difficult to figure out, but I'll tell you, you have to. We're depending on you. Let's see here. I just said, I want my life to get back to normal. I want my son to be in school. I don't want to see a preventable uptick in cases of a communicable disease. I want administrators to be pragmatic and considerate, to not engage in any magical thinking or anecdotal evidence. You don't like masks? That's not my problem. Wear one. I have to wear one every day at work, 12 hours. Physicians' offices, visitors, we've all streamlined that. We have doing all of our visits, doctor's visits, often online. It's not safe. They're not bringing people into the office. There's not 25 people in the waiting room. This is the medical community. You have to listen to them. Hazard pay. What about the teachers? Are they going to get hazard pay? They're sick? Prolonged sickness. We know that COVID is just not one thing. Maybe some people get through it, but not all. They have lingering symptoms. I just talked to a nurse the other day. She's 28. Can't get back to work. She's still having symptoms. Sick. Medical expenses. How about getting together? We have a great community, churches. Why don't we get a fund going? Because we know people are going to be sick. They're going to be out pay. I work for WellSpan now. I worked for LGH for many years. WellSpan was great. They had an employee medical fund. People got sick. They were able to help them. Other countries, as far as what people had said, they were compliant. Come on, Denmark, it was compliant. People didn't run around without masks. That's why they're able to do what they're doing now. The flu's coming. That's also going to hold us back. People are going to be sick, and it's going to come to where I am working. I'm an OB nurse. It's going to come to my staff being pooled to work in critical care units. I have great friends that are ED doctors out in Washington. It's crazy. You have to take this seriously. We want our kids to learn, but we don't want them to die. We don't want our teachers to die. That is most important. Appreciate your time, and I really, really hope that you'll consider everyone's thoughts. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jean Bickmeyer. I live at 457 Coreopsis Drive in Lancaster, 17602. I'm a resident. I am not a parent. I am the district leader for the Conestoga District Democrats. However, I'm not here for political reasons. I think this is a non-political issue. Never in my lifetime have I seen an issue that has been so politicized and should be based on facts. So what I've looked at the last few months as regards to COVID is that this disease is deadly, that it has spread exponentially, and that kids can spread it. And looking at the schools across the country, kids have been pushed into hallways, and schools have started only to shut down almost immediately. So, and I think, Conestoga Valley, I'm very proud of our district. I thought Conestoga Valley was a great school district and still do. However, I was and still am very concerned about the fact that there doesn't seem to be a comprehensive plan in such important issue as our kids' safety, our teachers' safety, and a life and death issue. So I'm just wondering, some of the questions I have is if somebody has or is test positive for COVID, which is more than likely going to happen, how is that found? Do you do temperature checks? Is there some sort of a testing that you will have for people that are asymptomatic? If someone is found to be positive for COVID, what is the contact tracing? Does everybody have to quarantine who is in contact with that person? Because that is a real concern. It's a very real issue. So HVAC. Now, I don't know what the HVAC systems are here, but any recycled air systems also have the potential for spreading COVID. So, and so I think I heard that the HVAC systems here are very old. So, so I'm just concerned with all those issues. I do understand completely about the fact of kids wanting to be with other kids and needing to be in the classrooms. I think a hybrid model is probably the best way to go. I think it alleviates the busing issue of people being crowded on busing or transportation. I think it helps with school spacing. And I think that is probably the best way to start the school system out. I know the parents are still concerned, a lot of them, even about the hybrid model of not only what AJ was saying about perhaps not the virtual learning center not being robust enough for everybody, but also with the fact of even then with the hybrid model getting COVID. So those are very real issues, and I am a person of faith. I do pray all the time, but I also think God gives us intelligence, and He gives us mind, He gives us wisdom. So I hope that the school board will reconsider and look at that. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good evening. Hello, my name is Reggie Fisher. I'm at 43 East Main Street in Brownstown. First of all, I just want to thank our teachers, administration, and school board for the commitment that each of you continue to make on behalf of our district. I completely understand that this is a very challenging and unprecedented time for all involved. I want to commend the administration and school board for the initial decision to commit to regular 5-day in-person instruction for the upcoming school year, which begins next week for students. I know this was not an easy decision, all things considered, but appreciate the resilience and commitment that has already been shown to the students and families within the CV school district. I also want to make a request that this continues to be the position of the school, a regular 5-day in-person schedule for grades K through 12. As we as a community have continued to navigate this trying time, the term essential has been used to describe the various industries, businesses, and nonprofit organizations. The term essential was used to categorize those who were needed, permitted to, and mandated to return to work or open for business to meet the needs of our communities. That said, our schools and our educators are among the most essential organizations and citizens within the community. Our teachers and schools are necessary and essential for our children and for the future of our district. Not just for the academics, but for the extracurricular activities, social opportunities, networking, learning support, family support, etc., that our teachers and school systems offer each and every day. Since the beginning of the pandemic, local and state authorities have worked through various essential industries and professions, and I believe worked very hard to sort through the logistics of reopening our states and our communities. They have done an excellent job in flattening the curve, keeping us safe as best as possible, and working towards reopening our counties and state while maintaining a pulse on the risk. For most of it in this room or watching online, we have been called back to work at some capacity because our industries are essential. Our grocery stores, construction companies, manufacturing plants, post offices, churches, road construction companies, distribution centers, healthcare workers, restaurants, municipal offices, and hundreds of other companies and organizations have been called back by their labor force and are back operating in a safe, responsible manner. Why? Because they are essential, and we need them. We need housing, safe roads, groceries, safe streets, healthcare, and we need schools taught in person to our children, youth, and young adults on a daily, regular basis. Believe me, I understand the concern over safety, especially the most vulnerable. This hits home for all of us in this room. I respect the concern over wellness, and I know that some of our educators are either at risk or concerned over exposing the virus to others around them. That said, all of us have those concerns, and most of us, if not all, do not have the option to stay at home. Well, we could stay at home and quarantine for the next couple weeks and months ahead, but for most of us, if we made that decision, we would no longer enjoy our current employment opportunity because our employers or our customers would find someone else to meet the needs of that essential business. Our schools should be no different. Our families and students need the CV school system and what it offers to our community and how it meets critical needs every day. My son recently told me he'd rather go back to school 9 to 10 hours per day in class than 1 to 2 hours online. He does not do well in an online-only environment, and neither do over 85% of our students and families that responded to the surveys put out to our district. They want to be back in school, and more importantly, they need to be back in school and not online or in a hybrid environment. I implore you to continue to ask the question, What is the end game here should we move back to online or hybrid and away from the 5-day in-person instruction? Is the only way that our schools go back to work, go back to normal, is if we have a vaccine for the coronavirus? If that is the case, it's already been said that we have some distance in time before our teachers and children are safe. Also, why are hundreds of other businesses and industries essential, but our schools and teachers are just not quite as essential to get back to normal? We all know that is not true. I believe that our teachers and administration are an essential piece to CV, Lancaster County, our state, and beyond. Please stay strong, stay safe, and stay resilient. Thank you.
This side.
Hi, my name is Jen Proch. Address is 80 Blaine Avenue, Leola, PA 17540. So my question is, if restaurants can't open at full capacity and they are limiting patrons to 25%, how can we open schools at full capacity? As far as essential businesses being open, I work at a doctor's office. We are limiting how many patients are in the waiting room at one time. If it gets to be too full, we ask them to go out in their car and wait. So yes, there are essential businesses open, but they're doing so with lots of precautions. Also, my husband is a funeral director, and he has recently seen about 4 COVID deaths in the last week. So it is not a joke. It is not a scam. And I just think we should open our schools at a slow pace. My 11th grader, he does not learn well online, so I am so against online learning. However, I'd rather him have a chance to be in the classroom with a slow, safe start, and have some time in the classroom than open up fully and the next week shut down. That would not be good. So I just ask that you consider a hybrid opening to schools. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nick Ermelovich. Kathy Ermelovich and I are at Cornerstone Way in West Earl Township, and we are the parents of 2 CV students, one an incoming senior and one an incoming 3rd grade student. We appreciate that the district has been thrown into a tough spot. You are basically in the position of becoming public health experts on the fly. We get it. We reviewed the summary of the plan that was presented a week or so ago. We then reviewed the plan when it was posted, and we reviewed the video of the meeting presentation by Dr. Zolkowski. That prompted us to write a letter to the superintendent, of which you all received copies of. And since that time, I just received a response from your solicitor. Why did we write a letter? We wrote a letter because our point of view is that CV should strive for the highest standards in education and safety, the highest, not the lowest. And we felt that there were certain deficiencies in the plan that suggested that CV was not striving for the highest. We feel that you should rely on the best and the brightest in medicine, in science, and education. And it's been stated tonight, but I'll state it again. The original draft of the plan failed to include collaboration with your best experts, your teachers. Nothing. Zero. You failed to consult with a public health expert. You failed to consult with an epidemiologist, and on and on and on. You failed to consult with your insurance carrier. That's why we wrote the letter. What were some of the deficiencies? Well, some of the deficiencies were, on page 30 of that plan, the policy regarding face masks and face shields was impenetrable. It was anemic. It was a word salad. It made no sense. It literally required you to look at other documents to understand what the policy was. It would seem to me that you could be clear and concise. Some of your neighbors have fixed it or have good language. I give you permission to copy their homework. Everybody over the age of 2 must wear a mask or a face shield in our buildings until further notice. This policy will be strictly enforced. We also raised the issue that you failed to consider hybrid options. You failed to consider the impact of your plan on those students who have IEPs or GIEPs. You fail to provide any language or any consideration for those students who will inevitably be quarantined. You fail to consider social distancing on buses, and there's been some others. It was good to see Dr. Zilkowski at the last work session provide the proposal for a hybrid option, but not for the entire school, just for the older kids and the high school kids. And it appears as if there's a proposal to tighten the language regarding how you will handle masks and face shields. I would suggest that as you deliberate this health and safety plan and any potential modifications to it, that you consider a clear and concise policy when the students show up without wearing a mask or a shield. The policy, as it's been proposed at least at the last work session, was like, well, we'll take care of it on a case-by-case basis. That's not good enough. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Get it together. In addition, I'd ask you to consider, have every parent and guardian sign an acknowledgement of the plan as it's been put in place. Get everybody on the same page. I would also suggest to you that, because I saw it in the original video, that this business of the virtual academy being some sort of apples to apples choice here, that's a red herring. That's absurd. The virtual academy cannot meet the needs of students with IEPs and GIEPs, especially if they have health issues. That's a terrible, terrible solution to this. Well, we'll just, everybody's in school, and if you don't like it, go to the virtual academy. It doesn't work that way. And I'll tell you what. If you can't meet the needs of kids with IEPs and GIEPs, are you prepared to pay the money for cyber school, for private school tuition, public school tuition? If you tighten the language regarding masks and face shields, if you think about hybrid options, if you address those needs with those kids with IEPs and GIEPs, you won't have a problem. Or at least it's more workable. I'll leave you with this. I was told by your solicitor that somehow our point of view was not the majority point of view in this district. Well, I just told you my point of view. I put it in the letter. I think you guys should be at the top of the food chain, the ceiling when it comes to public, to safety of the students and education. You should be at the top, not the bottom. So if our point of view is not the majority view in this district, I'll ask the question so you can deliberate. What is the majority view of this board or this district? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Katie Calderon. I live at 2477 Impala Drive, Bronx, PA, 17572. To the board, thank you for serving our school district and allowing us to speak tonight. As a parent, I would like to be a voice for the teachers that cannot speak tonight. I beg you to listen to them. As Mrs. Flick said, they are the experts. Being a parent of a student that graduated from CV and another one in the middle school, I know that CV has excellent teachers, they have excellent administrators, they have an awesome superintendent and great support staff. Please be the awesome school board that our children need. They always have their best interests, always. Just please listen to them. I know that hybrid isn't an easy choice to implement, but when has CV taken the easy way out? Don't let it be this time. If the administrators and the teachers are willing to put in the work and keep our children safe, please give them that opportunity to implement a hybrid model that keeps our children safe by reducing the number of children in the classrooms and on the buses. Just take a moment, imagine those buses. Our children crammed onto those buses in that tight space for longer than 10 minutes. I know that somebody mentioned tonight Walmart and Target, our children going there, but that's for a small amount of time. Our children are in these classrooms all day, and if there's somebody that's asymptomatic in that classroom, in a small space, it's much more likely that they could get COVID than by going to Walmart or Target. I know you want to get back to normal, as somebody said, but unfortunately, these are not normal times. I beg you, don't take the easy way out. Our children are depending on you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Megan Rowland. I live at 2303 Old Philadelphia Pike, and I was here last week speaking to you on wanting my child to go to school, my children, my 2 children that are left here in CV, full-time. I have not changed my opinion. I am concerned for the other things that we have to worry about for our children in school. The American Academy of Pediatrics lists the top deaths for children: suicide, homicide, and brain tumors, not COVID-19. Today I found an article from the American Council on Science and Health, and they projected out how this will go, and suicides will go up. I have a child with mental health issues, and I am concerned with her not being in school. It is a real fear. It is more than a real fear. As far as COVID-19, I am concerned. But we wear masks, we wash our hands, we do what we need to do. The American Academy for Pediatrics says that school should start in the building. It also says that 3 to 6 feet of distance is fine. There was a report yesterday that 1 in 4 teens and young adults have contemplated suicide during this pandemic and isolation. That is what you're dealing with. And if you don't have to deal with that in your home, and you don't have to deal with drugs or your kids not being able to do online school, you're lucky and blessed, and thank God every day for it. COVID-19 is real, but it's preventable, and so is what I'm talking about. I knew what happened with I knew that there were issues with my daughter. I always did. I always knew she had anxiety. I'd ask her teacher, but she has a cute little high voice and a bubbly personality that she hides it with. And an amazing teacher in her 5th grade class, Mrs. Kristen High, came to me at a school dance and said, "There's something else with your daughter." I asked teachers for years if there was a problem, and they always just saw the little girl flitting around. And she said, "There's something else going on." And when I sat in the doctor's office and she talked about how she would pick her skin until she bled and it felt good, my stomach dropped. And to hear people sit here today and say that they're worried about their children, I understand that. But I'm saying to you that there are more pressing things, believe it or not, in this world, and more immediate every day than a virus that your child may or may not get. We are at, according to the PDE website the other day, on Friday, we are at 4.2% positivity in this county, which means that we can have in-person classes. As far as the hybrid model, you want them to do work at home. I've been in this district with my kids for over 15 years, and I've seen that you have de-emphasized homework. From 1st through 6th grades, my daughter had hardly anything. Read 20 minutes a night, here and there an assignment. Then you sent her home with a computer and said, "Good luck with learning." And now, when I asked her 6th grade teacher last year why they did that, he said that it's because it doesn't reinforce learning. Parents are too busy, they're too stressed, kids are too overwhelmed. And now you're going to send them home for 3 days a week and do their own learning on the computer, like homework. Well, they don't know how to do homework because you never made them do homework. So now you're asking families that are overstressed and overwhelmed to do that job. Finally, I'm a physical therapist and I work in pediatrics with small children. The IEPs and everything else that you're talking about. I see these families struggling because they have to help their children all the time. Pick them up, move them, change their diapers, and you're suggesting that they don't go to school on some days. Families don't have nursing at home because their kids aren't in school. Children with autism need something every single day, not every other day. They don't make progress. We've gone 5 months without our children having any forward progress. And I want you to think about that when you talk about full-time, hybrid, whatever model. But the model where you send my child home and she learns by herself 3 days a week, I don't think is acceptable. It is not the highest education standards. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michelle Reddig. I live in Brownstown and 41 Redwood Drive, Brownstown, 17508. I have 2 children, and my youngest is a senior this year. So I've had 14 years of CV education to speak about. And we've been tremendously pleased with the education provided by the school district. We've been incredibly honored to be a part of this community. And we've seen the community come together in awful, awful circumstances. But listen to these people. They are angry and upset, and your community needs you to be more transparent with what you are thinking about doing. To not even have this meeting from last week online available to people who could not be here is horrible. You guys need to... There's 4 main facets of this that I can see before you should have even voted to reopen. And I've done some research on this, and I've been trying not to make it a personal issue. But your employees need to take this personally because it's their lives that are at stake here. Your teachers are telling you what they want. Secondly, have safety precautions been provided? Protections at any of these schools, not just the high school, not just the middle school, not just the elementary schools, any of them. I haven't heard about, I mean, we talked a little bit about HVAC and whatever. The schools are old. Has there been talk about anything like hand sanitizer that the teachers might need that maybe the parents could get behind to help them with? Anything like that. The data behind your decisions is something that personally I would appreciate knowing what you're looking at. I know that you guys have been quoting different pediatric journals and the Academy of Pediatrics. Everything said here tonight about the schools needing to reopen is absolutely true. But the Academy of Pediatrics also says you have to have safety precautions in place to open. And third, or fourth, excuse me, pushing this online learning through the CVVA is great for some kids, not everyone. And if you're not providing equity and education to all your students, you are failing them.
Thank you. Over here.
Hi, I'm Alicia Binkley. I live at 1836 Crystal Drive, Lancaster, 17602. I am wholeheartedly in favor of sending my 3 children to school every day. They need to be in school. I'm an alumni of CV. My mom is an alumni of CV. My mother-in-law is an alumni of CV, and I am so embarrassed. I am so embarrassed that there are people coming out here and saying that we have to have hybrid, our kids are at risk. And then I see almost every single one of them have their kids on the soccer field or the baseball field or at open gyms. And they're not wearing masks. And yes, they're social distancing, but the second that they play a contact sport and they're all huffing and puffing and spitting on each other, they're going to spread COVID. So if, say you're a hybrid, you go to school on Monday, but then you go to soccer practice with the A and B people, and then the B people go, and then the A and B people come together again at soccer practice. Like, it doesn't even make sense. You're not protecting anybody with this hybrid model. All you're doing is giving them half-time school. Our kids need to be in school. Not everybody posts on Instagram and Facebook all their hardships, but there are so many people that are suffering. There are so many days that I watch my children cry in the spring, frustrated with no help and not knowing what to do. And afraid to ask help, or just completely frustrated. So they're going in with a deficit of education that they didn't get over the springtime, and then we're going to teach them half the time. I went to one of the school board meetings in May, and I expressed my concerns that my husband and I talked, and we expressed our concerns that our children were not going to be full-time school again, and that we were primary educators during the spring. My husband works full-time, I work part-time, I go to college full-time for my RN, and we're teaching 3 children at home. And I was assured by Dr. Z at that meeting that parents would not be expected to teach their children come the fall. And here we are, and 3 days a week, I'm going to be teaching my child. I have to decide if I can continue my education for my RN or stay home and take care and teach my children. Because going home with homework doesn't work. It does for some people's kids, but majority, it does not. I should be sleeping right now because I'm about to go in the hospital and work 3rd shift, but I'm here advocating for my children. I go at night, I wear a mask, I wear goggles. It doesn't matter if you have COVID or not, you wear a mask, you wear goggles. You do not wear an N95 unless they're on a trach or they're having a breath treatment, unless there's an airborne concern. The COVID patients still get goggles and a mask. It's the same thing for every patient. It's the same thing that you can do for the kids. I don't social distance. There's no janitor that comes around and cleans my workstation, goes into my patients' rooms and excessively cleans around them. I take a Clorox wipe and I wipe down my own station. And if there was somebody in cardiac arrest, I don't have an N95 right at my hands. I go and I save that life anyways. Our kids are in cardiac arrest. You need to save them. Nobody is speaking out for the child that mom is working 3 jobs, who's not eating, who is neglected, who does not have a parent to help them, who's being abused, who is suicidal, who is a drug addict. Nobody is speaking for them. Nobody is out there in red shirts rallying for them. And they're the ones, that is our job as adults, to protect these children. It is shameful, we are privileged, and nobody is protecting these kids. If your child or your spouse or your partner came into the hospital tomorrow with COVID, I would treat them the same. I would save their life. My kids need education 5 days a week. This is literally life-saving for them. I see everybody went on their vacations this summer. You can see it on Instagram, you can see it on Facebook, you can't hide from it, you're posting stuff. But now we can't seem to go to school 5 days a week and educate our children after they just had an entire spring off. There's nothing the school could have done about this spring. Nobody was expecting this, but there's plenty we can do now. I go to work for you because you're my community and I love you. I want you to go to work for me. I don't want to educate my children at home. I want you to educate my children.
All right, I don't see anyone else, so with that, we'll continue to move on. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. Board, you have in front of you the consent agenda tonight. These are things that we've talked about, these things that we've looked at previously at previous meetings. With that, Board, if there's no comments, Board, I'll take a motion to approve our consent agenda tonight.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call, starting with Julia.
Aye.
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 And aye. All right. You have here on the next item on our agenda is that we need to accept Ms. Reed's resignation from the school board here. We need to declare her seat open. According to her letter of resignation, she is going to continue her service through, I believe, August 28th. Is that correct? And once August 28th rolls around, this seat will then become open. So, Board, at this time, I will take a motion to approve or agree to, if we have to, the resignation of Julia Reed.
I move we accept the resignation of Julia Reed.
With regrets, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
With hesitant eyes, but opposed?
I'll oppose.
All right. Well, congratulations, Ms. Reed, on moving. Do you have any comments?
Just a couple brief comments. It's really been, I'm going to try not to cry, such an honor to serve this community. And I'm so grateful for so many people who have taught me so much. And just want to point out Phyllis particularly was amazing to train me as a board member, as well as Idette, both of them with so much experience. And I really believe in collaboration and learning from others, and I've been so grateful for everyone, both the current board members here and from the past board members, our current administration and our past administration. I'm just thankful for the opportunity to be a part of this team.
Well, we really appreciate your service, so best of luck as you move forward. All right, next on our agenda is Matt Griffith. Around? All right, Matt.
Matt Griffith with Miranda Main Architects. This is regarding Brownstown Elementary School. We're asking for the board's approval for a no-cost change order to replace flooring in a previously completed classroom that was damaged by water. Little backstory. We would be taking this money from the mechanical contractor's contract and providing it to the general contractor to complete the work. One of the classrooms that was previously completed and shut down during the COVID process, we discovered that water had leaked from the mechanical unit. And as soon as we did, we started process of trying to get that repaired. And we had the flooring subcontractor in to review it, and the adhesive was compromised. So the decision was made that the flooring and vinyl base needs to be repaired in classroom A114, which is a third grade classroom. So the cost of $8,072.21 would repair that flooring. The condensate in the mechanical unit had leaked, and we have those now attached to alarms. So if the condensate pans get full, the alarms will go off and we will be notified. But it was a previously closed classroom. No one was in there for a while. We did not know how long the water was on the floor. So unfortunately, the flooring was compromised, and the decision was made we have to replace it. So we're asking to move forward to be able to complete that work prior to school starting here on the teachers returning on the 20th.
All right, Board, I'll take a motion to approve this change order.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, starting with Mike.
Yes. Aye. Aye.
Keisha.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
And aye. All right. Thank you, Matt.
Appreciate it.
All right, Phyllis, I believe you're next.
Good evening. So we have one item to cover with you tonight regarding actually the middle school project. And this is not something that you have to take action on after talking with the solicitor this morning, but it is something that we want to make you aware of so you know what the process is going to be. So obviously, you know, in the geology in our area, we are prone to depressions and, I will say the word, sinkholes. And so we've been working with Horst, who is the excavator on the middle school project, to come up with a system for how we're going to deal with those. And the reason to kind of do this process this way is really because we don't want things to sit in between board meetings. So the intent of doing it this way is that we would be able to use the schedule that was attached to the board meeting, so that as those types of surface areas are identified, that we can go ahead and do remediation before board action, and then we would come back to you once we know, so we know part of the calculation, which is going to be the unit cost, which is what you have attached to the board agenda item, and then once the work is completed, we know what the time and the quantity was of the calculation, and then we can bring the change order back that kind of brings it all together. But there's not really a way for me to give you the exact number going into it, because we're just not going to know how much material and time it's going to take to do it. But I don't want those types of items to sit while we're in between board meetings here as we go into the fall. So really just an FYI for you that this is going to be the time and material, the T&M rate structure that we're going to use. As I said, we'll kind of remediate as we need to go forward here. If something would come up that would be a huge pattern of things that, would need some sort of excessive cost associated with it, certainly we can sort of put the stops on that and kind of come back to you. But there are a couple of, little areas that we're watching that we want to make sure, again, as those areas crop up, that we're dealing with them as we go forward. So hopefully that makes sense. And if you have any questions, either Ken or I can answer them for you tonight or as we go on.
I have a
Mrs.
question.
Graff.
Is this like an addendum to their contract that we would have to approve? At least as far as the schedule goes?
So there are unit costs that were part of the contract we approved, but this is on top of that. When I talked to Mr. Frankhauser, he said that the board does not have to approve this schedule because you'll approve it when it comes back to you in the change order. Does that make sense? So you're not approving this, you will approve what unit costs are used when we present the change order for you for approval. The difference will be, though, that in this case, the work's going to be done because we want to make sure we take care of it, and then you're going to approve the change order for the cost on the back end.
But if we already know what they're going to charge, and we don't approve that till after they do it, we have no choice.
Well,
Not that we have a choice with the sinkhole, I get that.
Right. So you are going to approve it when you get the change order back, but this is just to make you aware what the costs would be. You are only going to know, so you're not going to know it going into it because you're only going to know what the charge is. You're not going to know what that's multiplied by.
So we're handling this just like any other change order where something comes up we didn't anticipate.
Well,
Except
normally,
that we know what the rates would be, although we haven't approved them.
Normally with a change order, we bring you the change order, you approve it, and then we execute the work. In this scenario, we're going to use the schedule that if a depression or sinkhole or whatever we want to call it gets to a level that so you approve the Hillis-Carnes contract. They have been working with us to look at these areas. A couple of them have perked up, that if we determine that they need to be addressed, that we have the ability to go ahead and release that work to be done based on this schedule without the board approving it on the front end. You're going to approve the change order on the back end.
I understand approving a change order. It just seems strange that, I don't know who came up with the schedule and who agreed to it or not. It just seems to me that we should approve it. But I'm not going to fight with Mr. Frankhauser, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, I don't know that there's any harm to you in approving it, but when I talked to him about it this morning, he said you didn't need to approve it, but we needed to make you aware of it so that you weren't surprised by it when we come back to you with the change order.
Just like to be on the safe side and have everything approved so we know
That's fine.
what they're going to charge and there are no surprises
Yeah,
later.
you're going to know the unit cost, and then we'll multiply these by whatever the time and the quantity is once it's complete, once the work's complete, and then we'll bring the final product back to you.
Yeah, but my point is, if it's approved, then Noah can say, well, this is a little different than what we thought. I mean, we know this is what it would be. I think it should be approved.
Okay. then we'll need a motion and a
Yep, with
second
that,
to approve.
with Idette's comments there, then I will take a motion to approve this rate schedule, knowing that we won't know quantities until said work is done.
Correct.
Yeah, well, it's like a unit cost.
Right, we'll know the unit cost, but we won't know
No, I'll
The other
move that
half.
we approve the schedule.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you, Phyllis.
You're welcome. So the next item on the agenda, so normally, actually, in the July board meeting, we approve a renewal contract with Bright Horizons. We received notice from Bright Horizons last Thursday that they were not going to be providing the before and after-school program that runs in each of the 4 elementary schools for the 2021 school year. So Dr. Cartwright and I were on a mad scramble on Friday to see if we had any other vendors or companies, partnerships that we could talk to. So we did that. We talked to 2 on Friday. And ultimately, the proposal that we received from Steps to Success, where is Dr. Cartwright? I am going to forget what they do for us now. It's pre-K? The Steps to Success.
No, Steps to Success was our 5-year partner during the Keystones to Opportunity Grant.
Thank you, the Keystones to Opportunity Grant. I knew she would know that better than I would. But when we talked to Steps to Success on Friday, asked them, kind of describe the program that we had in the past with Bright Horizons. Actually, they have somebody who works with them who was at one point part of the Bright Horizons team, so she knows the program intimately, which I will just tell you, gave us a comfort level that, this would be a good partnership for us to work through. And they've basically taken the agreement that we have had with Bright Horizons in the past and replicated it. So that's the letter that you have before you. And we would ask that, it's again, essentially the same service, different vendor, that you would approve it. It will not, in most likelihood, be ready for the start of school because there's some credential and licensing that they need to do in order to add this program kind of to the work that they do. But they are going to work very diligently. They've actually already started to reach out to the folks that they work with to see if they could get it expedited as much as possible so that we would have a solution for families as quickly as possible. So I don't have a date for you, but hopefully, within a short time after school started, we will be able to get this up and running as a replacement to the Bright Horizons program. So we're asking for you to approve this engagement letter tonight. Kelly, anything I missed?
Thank you for taking care of that. I know that was not ideal, but I move that we approve this contract with Steps to Success.
Is this just a coincidence that the name is the same as the organization that was related to United Way?
These guys are like in the old Upper Leacock Township building. I think that's where I don't think it's related.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the relationship to United Way. Kelly's shaking her
That
head
must
either.
just be a coincidence. They have a program by that name or had one at one time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with it.
Board, I'm looking for a second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you. I'm
And
done
Kelly.
now.
All right, Ms. Henry.
Good evening. I'm Dina Henry, the athletic director. And first, I would like to just say to Julia that I had no idea that that was in the works. And I wanted to thank you because every time we met, you were very positive and you're very supportive. And I wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you. I
Being new
appreciate
to the
it.
district, it was great to have your support. So I appreciate that.
Go sports, right?
Go sports.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So this is the return to play guidelines addendum for the fall. What we did in June was a return to play guideline. It did not includes some of the more specific things that might take place in the fall. At that time, those things were still being developed. We weren't sure if we would be in school or playing sports, and some of those recommendations had not been given to us yet. Now, in preparation to start fall sports, if that is the case, I wanted to be prepared with the fall sport recommendations or fall sport return to play guidelines. So we've included some things here that we did not encounter in the summer, such as the use of the athletic training room, transportation, locker rooms, et cetera. And I'm just asking for approval, or if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
We didn't approve the original plan, did we?
We sort
I
of,
think
we
you
sort of
did.
did.
I think you
mean,
did.
We gave them approval to move forward
Was it a
with,
formal vote?
Formal vote was not required on that.
formal
On the
vote wasn't
pre-plan.
required for the formal vote wasn't required for the athletic
Why would we
plan.
have to vote for an addendum?
This is the fall back to school, so this is the official start of school with practices. So this takes us from voluntary workouts through the actual LL League competition.
The season, this is the official start of the season.
I guess I'm still confused why, if the original plan didn't require a vote, it was just guidelines, why this does. I'm a little confused with the difference.
Wasn't the summer one just for open gym? Was that?
And voluntary
Right,
stuff.
the voluntary workouts, right.
Do you have a concern about voting for this now?
No, I'm just wondering why some guidelines we approve and some we don't.
Yeah, I think the main difference between this one and the one before is now these are PIAA sanctioned events or LL League sanctioned. I mean, like, the stuff before was just,
Well, the other one was much more detailed and complicated than this, wasn't it?
well, I think everything that went there is still
It's
there.
going to carry over, right.
and this
Without
is
our
just-
vote, but this, it
This
just
is just added
seems-
to it.
Do you see why this seems
I do.
strange to me?
Sure.
That
I do.
The big plan, the major plan that covers all those details, we don't vote on, but this addendum to cover, a few activities, we do vote on. It seems to me we're either all in or all out. I mean, we didn't vote on the guidelines for each building either, but we expect them to be followed. We seem to be inconsistent here.
Mhm. I guess the question then would be, Dr. Z, does this need actioned?
Well, and if it doesn't, then, I mean, this is informational, and if you have questions now, I can answer those.
What happens when we have board approval, as you know, with the transparency, now it's saying that this is a board-approved action, that we have run it by you and it's documented. So in hindsight, should we have probably done the initial one? Yes, since this is the addendum. What's going to happen, though, is this is going to pick up the original because it's an addendum to, you can't have just an addendum sitting out by itself.
Sure.
So if you want to make a motion to approve the original and the addendum at this time, I'm more than happy to do that.
I think that's what we should be doing if we're going to approve this.
There you go.
How you can approve an addendum to a document you haven't
Correct,
approved,
again.
I don't understand.
So to
Sure.
officially bring it on board, well, let's vote for both.
Board, are there any questions about this specifically for Ms. Henry, for Dina? If not, I'll take a motion to approve which was the summer workout plan details and then this addendum.
Right, so we just called it return to play guidelines, and then this addendum, yeah.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you, everyone.
Just
Thank you, Ms.
out
Henry.
of curiosity, my own, great. How's summer going? I know when we originally talked about this and we debated this, any issues, any?
It went much better than I expected, and the reason I say that is just because, as we know, this is new, and we're trying to put the best safety guidelines in play that we can. I figured there would be a lot of adjustments along the way, that I would be getting feedback, I would be witnessing some things, and we would need to make some adjustments along the way. And we haven't had to do that. And you know, it's in part because our coaches have been, you know, following those guidelines. And I've walked in and out of weight room and different places to kind of watch what they're doing, and they're doing what we're asking. And so that's been great. They're taking it seriously. So I think it's been going well. Anything that we have seen, we've addressed, and it's been corrected right away. So it's going well.
I've heard it's going well.
Good.
No disasters, no.
No, oh gosh,
concerns,
no, huh?
No issues, going extremely well.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one request.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It's actually not to you, Dina, but
Okay.
to the board secretary, that the original return to play guidelines be included in these minutes along with the addendum, so that they're not in separate sets of minutes.
Good idea. All right, Dr. Z, on to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to go over now the CV Health and Safety Reopening Plan and recommendations to that plan, changes to the plan. As noted at the July 27th, 2020 board meeting, the board did approve our original reopening plan with the following two options for students: full-time back in school 5 days a week, or enrollment into our CV Virtual Academy, CVVA. As you know, as noted, CVVA is an asynchronous model using K-12 program at the elementary level and Odyssey Ware at the secondary level. As stated in the original plan, flexibility is one of its key components, and at the August 10th meeting, the board directed administration to explore other reopening options other than the A-B hybrid, while still maintaining the integrity of the two original options approved in the plan. So during the week of August 10th, the administrative team shared ideas that we've been planning for in this ever-changing environment. It wasn't as if we started from scratch. And as Tara had mentioned, I met with over 30 educators, teachers, and building administrators from every level to vet options to coincide, not replace, the approved plan. At each grade level, we took into consideration developmental level of students, structure of the curriculum, variety of instructional strategies, and supports needed at home and in school to increase those opportunities for success. We started at the elementary level and divided the elementary into two sections, primary and intermediate. Currently, we have over 240 students enrolled in our CVVA program. Normally, that caseload is 40 or less. In discussion with the teachers and administrators, we're looking at keeping the K-3, that primary, in line with the two approved options. It was felt that in-person instruction for that primary grade was essential for them to move forward. And then we also discussed adding a real-time virtual option at grades 4 through 6. So let me describe what a real-time virtual is. It is not the CVVA, because CVVA, as I mentioned, was asynchronous, which means not live. And the real-time virtual option would focus on direct instruction at a time consistent to when the scheduled class period occurred. Now, the application of this model will depend on the teacher, content area, and building. So I know the discussion last week was about having live stream classes all the time. Live stream classes is not how we teach, in that the teacher is not always doing a presentation or something with the students. Oftentimes, that rotational model, where there's some direct instruction, some collaborative work, or some independent work, that occurs during the school day. So it's not always the teacher being the center of attention. So that's why I said the application of the model will vary depending on the content area and the building. And the expectations will be clearly defined for attendance, for expectations for student work, for expectations for teachers as well. So that's the real-time virtual option. Again, real-time instruction So face-to-face instruction with teachers and students in a virtual manner. The recommendations at the elementary grade, and again, considering the developmentally appropriate instruction and the support both at home and in school, has been mentioned many times by the people who have spoken. And also the fluid nature of instruction. If you go to the middle school or the high school, there's a block 1 or a period 2. That doesn't occur at the elementary level. Elementary instruction is more fluid. And for those reasons, the recommendation is to remain with the 2 previously approved options at the elementary level. In person 5 days a week, or the virtual academy offering. Now, the impact on CVVA enrollment on the number of students. While choosing CVVA definitely does reduce the number of students in the building. There'll be 240 less students in the building. Lower number on the buses, cafeteria, and hallways. Classrooms will not be as impacted as greatly as that, though. We do have to reassign teachers from regular classrooms to instruct virtually at CVVA. CVVA caseloads at the elementary have traditionally been between 35 and 40. So we may, class sizes then in person may remain the same or be slightly less. Family cohorts and all other protocol put in place at the elementary buildings will remain in place. Moving to the middle school, Mr. Quirk and his faculty have been proactive in addressing the CVVA shortcomings, namely that at the middle level, CVVA courses do not include the encore courses, the electives. So what Mr. Quirk has done is looked at the number of people that have signed up for CVVA, contacted them all directly, worked with his faculty, and reached an agreement that they can have real-time virtual instruction. So if I'm a math teacher, I know that during block 1, I'm going to be teaching virtually, where in block 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'll be teaching in person. They will leave from me virtually, and they will go to Mr. Quirk for science on period 2, because that's his virtual period. So that's when he's going to be teaching students online. The rest of his schedule will be students in the classroom. He's able to do that because he set up a teaming environment at both 7th and 8th grade levels. Currently, he's looking at 2 of the 3 teams providing virtual instruction. 3 teams? You got 35 more today? Okay. So now we're at 3 teams providing virtual instruction. And there are still 4 families, though, that have chosen to remain with the asynchronous CVVA model. This is important for some some students and parents whose students don't fit the 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock model. They need instruction to occur outside that traditional time frame. So the middle school recommendation is to keep the in-person 5 days a week option as already approved, and look at virtual options. CVVA, again, continue to offer that for those parents who want to have a asynchronous model that does not necessarily follow the normal schedule. And then we also encourage the real-time virtual model, as I just described, where students will work through a virtual day with teachers at each period, instructing it depending on the subject area.
Excuse me, where's Dr. Mann? Real quick, on the CVVA model, if I'm a parent and I have a student who's 4 months into the CVVA, how hard is it to transition back to normal school, and is the curriculum different? Or is it the same? Or would it be like going from CV to township from an education standpoint?
You want to use the microphone then, Dr. Mann, please?
We're there? Test?
They can hear you.
Test? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If a student is moving from CVVA using Odyssey-ware, it would be like moving from CV to township. I mean, it's different.
It's completely different. Model, instruction.
It's focused on the standards, so it's, you focused on the standards, but it's different.
Okay. I just think it's important to note that, or to ask that.
I can't hear.
That it's not going to be the same?
He said it's important to note that it's not the same going from CVVA asynchronous directly
That is-
Is this on?
into the class.
Yeah, just to restate,
No, maybe yes or no?
And
on?
that's
All right.
that's
It
a
is.
great question. One of the primary reasons why we were looking at offering this option, especially considering COVID and potential quarantine, was this is a more natural transition for students both into the classroom and then in a virtual environment. So when you look at our CVV Odyssey-ware, same standards, maybe different pacing, maybe different order, but when they're pushing in and out, or if we have to go closure or non-closure, this model really allows for a lot more ease of stress in transition. So we were looking at many different elements with this, not just providing more options, but providing less stress and headache in the event that we have to bounce back and forth.
So I've got a lot of feedback on this whole subject, and I'd ask parents, what is the hybrid model? 9 out of 10 didn't know, but it sounded cool, and it sounded safer. I just think it's real important to make sure we clarify that from a hybrid model, CBVA, et cetera. What is going to be the experience that these kids are going to have, just so that way we manage expectations. So if we go to the hybrid model or CBVA, it's going to be different than regular CV school. But if we go to a hybrid model, my kids are only going to have 2 days of instruction a week and then 3 days at home, doing their own thing and figuring it out as they go. And I just want to make sure that we're clear on that at the end of the school year, when we start seeing PSSAs go down and everything else go down because these children aren't learning, we understand that there's going to be a cascade effect on this.
we are looking at the real-time virtual model as our go-to model if we are forced to close down. So by having it, I guess, used at the middle school at this time as an option, we think that, I can't predict what's going to happen, but we can also be prepared for if we do have to close down. And as Mr. Quirk said, if a student is out for an extended period, for whatever the reason, it could be a normal illness, it could be a COVID-related illness, we can get him or her into this real-time virtual model. So when he does come back, like you had mentioned, Mr. Talley, about CVVA, it's not a smooth transition back and forth, but coming through the real-time virtual model, it will be a smoother transition. So the impact on the middle school is similar to what happens with the CVVA at the elementary. The number of students in the building will be less, so a little less crowded in the hallways, on the buses, in the cafeteria. But the classroom sizes, because the teachers are now picking up those students as part of their schedule, the class sizes in person, in the class, do not necessarily show dramatic increase.
It's not including whether or not some students end up going for this virtual real-time.
Correct.
So there's still an opportunity for those class sizes in the middle school to get reduced even more, am I right?
The more students that go virtual will reduce to a point until Mr. Quirk has to set up another teacher into a virtual environment.
Yeah, my biggest concern all through this is how can we get the in-person class size down to an acceptable size? And if I understand we're moving teachers, from a classroom to a virtual classroom, and I don't know how much more room we have right now in these real-time virtual classes if more kids come out of the regular classroom. But if it would require hiring another teacher, I would think to get the number of kids in that classroom reduced would be worth it. And I think it would make a lot of parents considerably more comfortable. No matter which side of the issue they're on, having that, I mean, it's great to get those extra kids off the bus. if this educational system works well for them, that's always the assumption, and to get them out of the building. But if the classes that are left in the building are the same size, I think we still have a problem. And I don't know what we've done before. I've seen it in other districts, but we've never had to deal with it. But I would have no problem with a last-minute hire to keep the class size in the building at an acceptable size.
Now, the class sizes are not raising in the class because of the model that is being proposed at the middle school. They'll remain the same.
You're keeping them the same size as they were before.
Right.
And I'd like to see them smaller. You'll have to speak up for me just a little bit.
It's easier this way. We restructured teams at the middle school. Traditionally, we had 2.5 teams. We had 2 7th, 2 8th, and one that's split. We did rearrange staff to get three teams across the board. So class sizes from prior years is down, but trying to analyze, how we can mitigate and get those class sizes, your recommendation of extra staff would certainly do that. The other two methods through research that we found would accomplish that in terms of class sizes would be, the high flex concept that some of our colleagues are using in Lancaster County and across the state, or a hybrid model where we're physically reducing.
Well, how many kids are in an average class?
20 to 22.
20 to 22. And can we keep them 6 feet apart?
Not in every space in our building, no.
To me, that's not an improvement. It's an improvement to some parts of the building, the transportation, but it's not an improvement to the school itself. And if more people make the change to the virtual real-time, that helps part of the problem, but it doesn't make the classroom any smaller. That part's a problem for me.
No, absolutely. And looking at the constraints that we can control with the current system that we have and the current staff we have, that's what we can work with. So we've tried to maximize, our spacing and what we can get creative with. Outside of changing to a hybrid or a high flex or adding staff, that's realistically what we can do with what we have.
Okay, well, and what's the maximum you said for those classes again?
22 would be max.
22. Well, that's not awful, but I'm not thrilled that they don't have the room.
I don't disagree with you. Less would be better, but that's what we have through analyzing.
Hey, Ms. Groff, we did talk about that in our discussion, that we started out at the elementary level, that if we hired staff in place of those teachers going to CVVA,
Yeah.
the issue is a contractual issue that we would have to work out with the association, because this is a one-year problem, we're hoping, that if you hire new teachers, it's
You'd
not a
have to
one-year,
hire them
it's
as
not a
part-time
one-year hire.
teachers.
So,
And it's, can it be listed as a part-time position? Not if it's a new position, right?
it's not since it's an open position, you have to fill it with a permanent
Full-time.
teacher, not a long-term sub unless, again, it's a contractual concern.
Okay.
I'm going to jump in just for a second. I really wanted you to finish and talk about the high school, because I think it's going to be a collective conversation about everything at the end. But could you just describe for everyone what the high flex model is? Because I think some of these terms are being thrown around, and people really don't know what that means.
What we're using is the real-time virtual.
Right.
Dennis likes the high flex option. To make it simple, it's real-time virtual. So if you go to this virtual option, it's real-time instruction with a teacher. It may not be the entire 60 minutes of time that the teacher's focused on that virtual cohort, but every day during that period, there's going to be a segmented time where it's virtual one-on-one.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that those two terms were the same, because I think we're throwing around some different terms, and I'm very familiar with the education system, and it's confusing for me. So I just want to make sure that we're being consistent in our language.
And I'm just gonna, we really don't know the answer to a lot of these until we know who signs up for what. Am I correct?
That is correct.
But we do know terms. So just again, in clarification, you said that the high flex option is real-time virtual. So would that be the same as if a teacher is teaching in their classroom and there are some students sitting there and then there are some students watching elsewhere? Is that what we're saying? Is that what the high flex option is?
No, let's not even talk high flex anymore.
Okay.
Let's just talk real-time virtual. What we had looked at when we get to the high school, when we start talking about that AB, or at the high, in fact, let me go to the high school first, and I think it's going to answer your question, because it deals with the students in front of you and also those that are virtually with you. Currently at the high school, we do have CVVA, and there's really two options in CVVA at the high school. You can take every one of your classes through CVVA. Everyone is in the course selection guide for CVVA. You can take all those courses and never come back into the building. Or you can take some classes through CVVA, and you can come back into the building for some classes. So you do have that option. Have a lot of people taken advantage of that? I would say no, but I don't know why. Maybe it's because it hasn't been publicized, because it is a viable option. So what we're looking at is a real-time virtual similar to what I described earlier, or a real-time virtual on an A-B schedule. Real-time virtual, it's different from CVVA at the high school, because, as been noted, there are courses that are not available through CVVA. But if you take the real-time virtual, you can sign up for that AP class virtually. Now, unlike the middle school, where Dennis has 25 kids taking 7th grade English, we may not have 25 students taking AP biology. So Tara would not have her own class of virtual students. What's going to happen more than likely at the high school is that there's going to be 20, 21 students, 22 students in the class with 3 or 4, or 1, 2, 3, or 4, depending on how many sign up for the class, real-time virtual. So what's going to happen for the teacher, and this is where I'm going to talk about professional development a little bit later, is that he or she is going to have to manage the instructional model to incorporate both in-person and virtual instruction and learning.
So they're doing both at the same time?
Same time.
Okay, so technically, any given student could be taking some CVVA courses, could be coming in for an in-person course, or could be taking that in-person course virtually.
Real-time virtual.
Yeah. So the high school kids have 3 ways to take their courses.
Well, so far. Now, we also looked at a real-time virtual on an AB schedule. And this, from and understandably from a teacher's standpoint, it gets messy, in that you have students in front of you, you have the students who are real-time virtual, who I just described, but now you have a group of anywhere from, 4 to 6, but it's really 2 to 3 at a time coming in every other day. So you have 4 different sections of students that you have to effectively instruct. And in the discussion on Friday, it's not a manageable option, and we don't know if that number that would take the AB real-time virtual would be, I'll say, worth the offer, but the real-time virtual, the teachers could get behind that because they can manage that. I mean, they know how to work with different groups within their classroom. So, and I just talked about the complexity of planning for instruction or whether it would be realized. Because if a student takes CVVA or real-time virtual, because they don't want to be in school for whatever reason, then coming in for an AB virtual didn't make sense, because they can come in different classes through the CVVA model. So the recommendation at the high school is to keep the in-person 5 days a week, offer the CVVA, and I think we need to publicize this third option, CVVA with the opportunity to attend classes in person, which is called the blended model at the high school. So when you call CVVA and you talk to Dr. Fox, he's going to talk to you about the blended model of CVVA. That's students taking classes online through Odyssey Ware, or else they're coming in and doing an in-person class. And then the fourth option is the real-time virtual, full-time, not AB, but truly full-time.
So Dr. Z, my understanding would be that the third option with what you want to call blended would give those families that have kids that want to take, or students that want to take those AP or those high-level courses, they could do their, I don't want to say normal, I don't want to minimize it, but they could.
They're in person.
They could do that at home. I mean, they could do some of the normal ones at home but some of those AP courses, they could come in person, so they could have that. Some of those families that were looking at saying CVVA is not an option because they don't have the asynchronous AP could come in and get that piece in the classroom.
And by the same token, those students that want to get into our tech ed programs.
Correct.
Or some of the more intensive lab programs or studio-based courses would obviously be better.
Can I ask you a question about that, Dr. Z? I love that option because we're already doing it. There's not a learning curve. We're already in place. If somebody wanted to do the CVVA and do a blended model, and that class was already being taught virtually, I know this is complicated, but could they do everything? I guess if they were going to do that, they would just do the fourth option. Yeah, I'm just thinking if they didn't want to come into the building for that AP course, their best option might be the fourth option. Then I'm answering my own question, sorry.
Right.
And I would assume it's understood that transportation provided is only at the beginning and end of a school day.
That's part of our planning that we have to look at to see what the options on the table are and how we're going to, because we're still running transportation in the morning and in the afternoon.
But that's how we do it now for the blended, right?
Right.
Parents have to work that,
Yes.
right?
I just wanted to validate that for those people that maybe aren't familiar with how we do it, that is one thing they have to be able to do, is provide the transportation.
I think, just to come back to that, I think it's a really important piece to really make sure it's clear that third option that's already exists, that it's more well known now. Like, let's make sure that we get that out there. Let's make sure that people understand that our parents understand that is a viable option for their student to take these AP or these college and classroom courses if they still want their student on at home on CVVA. I just think it's important that we make sure that that's known. So.
Yeah, I guess, in looking at it and listening to the discussion here, you could have a CVVA with a real-time virtual combination.
Yeah, that was what I was
Yep.
thinking. You could
Yep.
technically do that, yeah.
You sure could.
Okay. So you could do kind of some synchronous, some asynchronous, all at home.
Yes. All right, so to summarize what I just described, and again, when I was working with the teachers, and I appreciated their input on Friday, and the building administrators, we worked under the parameters that the health and safety plan, as written, is what we were following. And we were looking for ways to add to the plan. We were not replacing any of the components, the CVVA or the 5-day in-person. We wanted to see what else we could add to try to minimize the number of students in the building. So, in summary, we're going to recommend a motion, that the board makes a motion, because I can't make a motion, that elementary remains as is, in-person 5 days a week, CVVA. Middle school, again, 5 days a week, CVVA, but adding the real-time virtual. At the high school, in-person 5 days a week, CVVA, which is currently offered both as a full-time or a blended model, or real-time virtual, or a combination of CVVA and real-time virtual. As noted, there's no change to the original plan for elementary, and we've added the real-time virtual to the high school and middle school. Now, if the board does make that motion and it is approved, we would have to send out a parent survey, and it would be a detailed parent survey to the middle school and high school students and guardians tomorrow. And that would describe all of the options in detail, with the survey return date set for Thursday or Friday at the latest. And I'll tell you why, the quick turnaround coming up. Operationally, we've got to prepare for the management side of the house. How many people are riding the buses? How many are having our lunches or our breakfasts? How are we interacting within the building? We've got to prepare for instructional strategies. So we need a professional development. We need to apply that social distancing guidelines. We need time to make all of this happen. And in order to do that, we would also recommend a motion to delay the opening of students by 1 week from August 24th to August 31st. This does not impact the board calendar end date because we have Act 80 days that we are permitted to use. So we would use the week of Act 24 as professional development using Act 80 days. We would still end the school year as previously approved on the board calendar.
And those Act 80 days would specifically be for PTE for teachers to learn how to manage this type of classroom.
Right, Act 80 days are for curriculum
Yeah.
instruction assessment. So we are following PDE guidelines for the appropriate use of the Act 80 days. This gives our teachers, once the board decides which way it wants to go, it'll give us time to prepare for the opening of school.
Well, I think we've generally done a great job with this for the high school. I think this gives everyone of, every opinion a way to do it that suits them and their kids, and eliminates the problem with kids feeling they're forced to do it one way or the other because of what's being offered. So I'm pleased with the high school. I'm almost as pleased with the middle school. I think they've probably put a lot of work into getting where they are. I think as one of our, or several of our parents mentioned about masks, I think we have to remember that we're all on the same team here. And if we follow the guidelines diligently, that will make a huge difference. I think everyone agrees with that. The middle school and high school kids are old enough to know that and to obey that and for it to be demanded of them. My biggest worry right now is with our elementaries. I really would like the distancing and size of those classes to be smaller. I'm not sure how we do that. But I think what we have right now in place with this for the middle school and the high school gives everybody every possible choice they could have, no matter what opinion they have on how we should do it. And that, I think, was our goal, that the only way we really keep our kids safe is to shut down the schools and keep them at home in, a crystal box of some sort. And we can't do that. But our goal, I think, has always been to provide choices and variety so that everybody was served as best serves them. I think we've done that at 2 levels. I continue to be a little worried about elementary. I don't know what more we can do, what other ideas are out there, but I would certainly encourage us to continue to look at that. It makes me wish I were in high school again, I'll tell you that.
I think I echo Idet's comments in regards to staffing. I think this board would be very willing to entertain that, and I know, Phyllis, that stresses you out probably from a budget perspective, but I think at this point in time, we know that budget is kind of ambiguous at this point in time. It's not really known what's going to happen anywhere. But I think that would be something, Dr. Z, that you guys in the administration could, I think, have. I mean, I don't want to speak for the entire board because that's not what I want to do, but I think in these times, I think Idet's comments are right, that if an extra teacher here or there, or whatever those things could be to help, if that would help, certainly be something that this board, I think, would entertain.
And with your permission, I'd like to talk, if we're going to go that way.
That's fine.
With the association as well.
Board, any other comments, questions? Like, now's our time to talk about this, board.
Yeah, I have a few things. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you to all of the teachers and parents and community members that gave some good constructive feedback. That was appreciated. I want to thank you, Tara, for giving us some examples of how that hybrid situation would look. I felt like last week when we were presented with that information, I started asking some questions and wasn't really getting a lot of details in the answers, so I wasn't comfortable going that way at all. So having you just made the few examples that you did, thank you for that. I think one of the other teachers did as well. So I think that the class sizes in elementary, I mean, I think at this point, from my calculations anyway, there's 17 kids in my daughter's first grade class. So I can only imagine what that would look like in a kindergarten class. So I would agree that whatever we need to do to try our best to get those class sizes down, with the option of having the kids in five days a week, we're all like pretty smart people, and I really have faith in admin and the teachers to get creative and figure something out. I just want the class sizes to be a little bit smaller, and I do hear people's worries, and it's difficult on many levels, but I think we just need to keep having the conversations and getting input from those who know those classes best and what is realistic, what is functional, and what's going to educate our kids at the end of the day in the best way possible at this point.
My only comment that I want to make is walking through this process since the beginning of just trying to figure these things out. I just want to, a lot of people have a lot of opinions, and there's a lot of emotion around a lot of those opinions. But I would hate to leave here tonight and not acknowledge the fact that from my vantage point, I am grateful beyond measure to our principals, our administrators, our staff, our teachers, everyone who has tried to seek a solution that we can meet the needs of our children in this district who need us. And it's been wonderful being in meetings and board retreats and other places, hearing people seeking to serve our students, what we're here for. And I just want to publicly thank everybody who's been doing that since the COVID began.
And I guess I'll jump in. There are three core areas that, to me, just have come up over and over throughout all of this.
Keisha, pull the mic closer.
Oops. And they came up most certainly over and over again tonight. And those things were equity in education, choices, and safety. And as so many people have mentioned, I think that obviously we know that there are so many different perspectives, and that folks are very, very passionate about their perspectives in this district and what they believe should happen. And so my hope is that if the different things that were proposed just now can get the numbers down, and I understand that we don't know that until we hear back from parents and students and what choices they may make, if those can truly get those numbers down and increase distance then in the classrooms, and then hence leading to safety with us enforcing masks and those sorts of things, then I echo what some of my other colleagues have said, that at the middle and high school level, I feel more comfortable. I too have an incoming first grader at the elementary level, and my intent is to send him back. However, I do have some concerns, and I do hope that I do want to request that we continue to work to try to figure out some ways to bring those numbers down, to increase additional space at the elementary level as well. And if that includes hiring additional staff, I'm on favor with that as well.
I'd like to thank all of the parents for coming out tonight and staff. In July, when I said, please keep speaking, we need to hear what you think. You spoke, and we're listening still. Thank you very much for that. I'm much more comfortable with the high school and middle school options as presented tonight. I still am not comfortable with the elementary, and I think we should kind of flip this and look at how we would approve it. I would definitely support delaying the start of school by a week. We still don't have it right, and a delay would give some time to work out some of the rough spots and to give the survey results about what families are considering, to give us some more concrete numbers. I'd also like to propose that we have another board meeting next week to get some feedback on where we've progressed. I don't think this is something that can wait until the middle of September for our next meeting. And so that's what I'd like to suggest there. I'm not making a motion now, but I'll be happy to. But I'm still very uncomfortable with the fact that pulling elementary school teachers into the virtual model means that class sizes aren't reduced. I think the whole point of going to virtual is to reduce class size. And we're not there in the middle and the elementary school. And I worry about the special teachers that move from classroom to classroom. And there are many components of the elementary that just are not nailed down there yet.
Hey, Dr. Z, can you roll back your options, please? One slide.
Which side did you
The
want?
ones with all the different options.
Yeah, the one with the summary.
Options.
That's the one. There you go.
Now, reducing the class size is dependent upon people actually taking these options, correct? And that may or may not.
The class sizes at every level
Is
are
dependent
not
upon
going
people
to, the class sizes at the elementary level are not going to necessarily go down. And if they do, it'll be a slight decrease, because we have to provide instruction to the virtual students through CVVA with a qualified CV teacher. At the middle school, the numbers are going down more with what Mr. Cork did with reorganizing the teams and the way he has set that up, and had more teaching periods during the day than they have in the past. So the numbers at the middle school are down, not because of the virtual options, but because of the new schedule that Mr. Cork has in place. So again, as the number of virtual goes up at the elementary and the middle, the number in the actual classroom does not necessarily go down greatly. At the high school, the high school is more fluid, because the students that are in CVVA right now, there are teachers that are assigned during the school year to cover CVVA courses. So you will pick up a reduction of numbers of students that take the real-time virtual. How big is that impact going to be? We don't know until we survey.
Okay.
I'm just talking actual bodies in the building.
On the survey, I'm debating the AB model.
I'm sorry, you said the
I
AB
said
model?
I'm debating the AB model, where, and I'm going back and forth. I see how it could work, and how it can't, and how it can't work. From that, but I would like to add it to the survey, if we can. Just to say, from an AB option, if my student only had interactions with their teacher 40% of the time, could that work? And they're at home doing their own work on 3 days a week?
Was your concern though, Dr. Z, just the logistics of trying to work all of those out?
I'm sorry, I can't.
Your concern with the AB model was logistically trying to work? Your concern with the AB model was logistics for teachers? Is that why you were not wanting to do that, am I correct?
No, well, the AB model we proposed last week was in replacement for the 5-day in. By trying to overlay an AB model now, you have your 5-day in students, you have your A students in, you've got your B students virtual, and you have your real-time virtual. So you have 4 groups of students in your classroom that you're trying to manage. That was the reason that, in our discussion, we said it was not an effective way to deliver instruction.
I know this may go against, I don't know, so what about, I know Dr. Z, last week when the AB model was proposed, it was, I think Dana said it well, it just didn't flow well, but in light of the elementary, like I'm with Idette and I think Keisha and I think most of us, I think the middle school and high school very much headed in the right direction. What about the thoughts, maybe board, what about considering, and I'm not saying I'm like 100% behind this, but what about considering an AB just in the elementary?
Yes, or half-day.
Or half-day, but something outside, look, we're not doing the same thing at the middle school that we're doing at the high school, so what says we have to do the same thing at K through 6? Now, I know that's, I don't know, we're kind of throwing it out there, and I don't know even.
That discussion, we did occur whether it was K-6 or the upper levels. For those students that are developmentally ready to handle independent work and be alone at home would be your older students. Because you also have to look out, as was mentioned here tonight, those are elementary students that are going to be home alone possibly every other day.
Right.
So you would almost be better doing an AB K-12 than you would just elementary, because at least you may have older siblings. That doesn't guarantee it. But that was the reason we didn't propose the AB at especially the primary level. And we also felt that the instruction, the core instruction that the primary students receive from those K-3 teachers is irreplaceable.
Todd's braver than I am, because I was sitting here thinking about half-day elementary, but didn't want to throw something that brazen out all by myself, so thank you. Yeah, I understand the complications for it, and as with any plan, whatever we do, there's going to be loads of people out there that think we're just terrible. I've accepted that. It's just the way it is. And all of those people are being reasonable and being thoughtful. As Dana said, for all these parents to show up, and all the parents that sent us letters and calls, for the most part, they were thoughtful, they were intelligent, they were respectful, and they were doing what they need to do for their kids, and I can never question that. I think a lot of times there was data breaches in their knowledge. There's no way. I mean, I started off with a half-inch binder, went to an inch, and that's full. I understand if someone's angry because they read our plan and didn't read the guidelines it followed, so didn't understand the mask policy. That's not necessarily their fault. What is it that they say, nature hates a vacuum? And when there's a vacuum of understanding and knowledge and detail, they'll fill it in wherever they can find some information. And they have filled it in from where they felt was best. But I still have this ongoing problem. When I was in college, I was really bad at statistics and probabilities, but I took the course anyway. And what I do remember is that no probability formula can result in zero. I learned that the hard way, I hate to admit. And at every event, you start all over. So it's not how many days a week you go to school, it's how long you're exposed to people. Each one of those days, your risk starts all over. So every day you're in school with other people, or anywhere with other people, your risk factors start adding up. And the only way to make any difference in those risk factors, as many of our parents told us, was to listen to the CDC, put your doggone mask on when you're in a room that size. And the other is the distancing. So the risk will always be the same no matter how many days they go to school. But the problem is we require them to wear masks, we require them to wash their hands a lot, but we need to be able to provide them with a room the right size for the number of people. And I think somewhere we ought to look at some way to try to address that. And I wish I could tell you what that is, but I can't.
From a mathematical standpoint,
It's 70 square feet.
the lower number of kids, smaller number of kids in a classroom, you're going to have larger space. So one suggestion here was look at adding more teachers. If you add more teachers, then if you take your virtual ones out, then you're going to have more space because you still have the same number of teachers. You've just now pulled out that 140 at the elementary, or 240 at the elementary school, or 100 plus at the middle school, but the only other way is if you reduce the number of students. I mean, whether it's an AB, it could be every other day. Doesn't have to be 4 days a week. It could be strictly just keep running it. So we're looking for some direction, and we will continue to work at reducing the sizes. The one way is talking with Tara, and I will sit down and see if we can work something out with adding more staff. But knowing that we've got a budget that is facing a large number of reassessment appeals coming down, that's going to have a dramatic effect on our budget moving forward. So we have to work through this year, but then be ready to work next year and beyond.
Well, the next year and beyond, and I've talked to you about this before, is especially at our elementary schools, for those that say we don't look forward and have future plans. We know a lot of kids aren't going to get to master the literacy in math and higher thinking skills that we would usually expect in a shortened day or all online. And we're going to need to adjust our curriculum, especially for elementary, to make sure that when this is finally all over, that within a year or so we can bring all those kids up to where they need to be. That's going to be another challenge for another day, but I'm just facing the idea of having them there so they can learn in a safe environment. That's just really important.
I'm going to jump in again, if that's okay. I have a question, and I also have a suggestion. My question would be so I'm still thinking about this hybrid concept. And what I want to know is on those days that those kids are home, no matter what age they are, what are some innovative ways that we can engage them and not have them teach themselves? Because that is not appropriate. I don't think at any level, just based on my child development knowledge. So I would like to have some of those ideas presented. My idea for the elementary piece, and again, I'm just throwing it out there. So to me, K through 2, maybe 3, they're pretty vulnerable, and they need to be in school all day. If they do that, could there be 4 through 6 some kind of hybrid situation there? Because that would allow more room for the K through 12, because we're kind of minimizing the amount of people in the building, basically. So, just a thought. I don't know logistically, it could be complicated. I think in the back of my mind, I've done a lot of digging as far as what other districts are doing as well. I think Penn Manor's doing that, or some sort of version of that, so it may be something that's a viable option. I don't know.
You're exactly right. I mean, it's an option. Until we would ask the numbers to be able to manage where it is, how to set up the classrooms. We did look at 4 through 6 because they're involved with the Schoology program and not Seesaw, just from a management side, where teachers could be more robust in their resources. But like Tara said, we've been trained in a rotational model. So what I would envision is that there is an online, real-time online component every day for those students who are at home. Students should not be at home working asynchronously, especially at the elementary level. And they need that connection every day with that teacher, whether it's reaffirmation or remediation or whatever it is. So if we can design some sort of model that works. Now, what you have to look at, though, is if you give a student the option of coming in 5 days or every other day. And if you do both, because you will reduce the number of students in a class, and you will reduce the number of students in a building. Not as much as pure hybrid, but not as much as no hybrid. So there is that. Now the issue is going to be the instructional model and how we work that out with the teaching staff.
How about high school, 100% virtual, middle school, 100% virtual, 5th, 6th, 100% virtual, K, 1, 2, 3, in school, spread them out?
No.
I think that goes against our philosophy that we want our students in school. And that's spoken whether it's hybrid or
Because if you have a hybrid model, you're still exposing.
I think Dr. Mann's got something. Sorry, I just.
Go ahead, Dr. Mann.
Just to comment on the elementary component of it, in working with Jen Kraus, our elementary coordinator, we have, as Dave indicated, 240. We're actually more like 270 right now. I think a lot of that is because that was the only option they had. So, it's either real-time 5 days a week or CBVA asynchronous through K-12, which is a good program, but it was the only option they have. My opinion, can only base this on conversations that I've had with parents and so forth, so I can't give you a raw number. But in my opinion, if they had a third option there, we would see some different numbers come out of that. I think I think parents that opted for CVVA in the synchronous model would choose this other look for a number of reasons. One is that they want socialization with their peers, and in that sense, you may be able to work in things like that. If they decide not to continue with the virtual learning, as Mr. Talley asked the question earlier, it helps with the transition back because they're working with the CV teachers, which they would perhaps with K-12. But the reality is they're working with CV teachers on CV materials and CV curriculum, so that the transition back into the face-to-face classroom would be easier than those who opted for the K-12 out of just that is my only other option. So I just wanted to say that. I know it just muddies the water even more, but I just feel that it's important to take a look at this from a variety of angles.
I really appreciate those comments, and I don't know what that means logistically, but, you know, having a real desire to serve those parents in the community that want their children in school 5 days a week or need their children in school 5 days a week. But some of the parents that could do this other option and might and have the ability to support their kids at home, maybe that kind of a hybrid at the elementary school would get us to the classroom numbers we need.
Dr. Mann, what's your best guess? Based on your experience, you've been doing this for a while.
At the elementary level?
Just in general, do you think the numbers are going to be where they need to be with this model? Based on conversations you've had? And I'm not putting on the spot, just a general feel.
I'm trying to understand the question.
The question is, will this model reduce class size?
Which model? I mean,
This model, where we get people to CBVA option, real-time virtual,
at the high school, middle school?
high school, middle school.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, the more you give options, more opportunity for choice, you know, we have that blended piece that's always been there. But I think, you know, at any given period or block of the day, it will reduce numbers. So I think that, you'll see that. You know, to what extent, still, you know, we'd have to get feedback from the parents. At the elementary level, I mean, it's, again, you know, maybe I should say this also, I'm not an elementary teacher, not an elementary principal. I've always been a secondary guy. I'm doing with the elementary CBVA just because I'm doing CBVA. But my experience in dealing with these families over the years is they opt for the CBVA because it filled a need that they had. And so we, as a district, committed to going in that direction, and we were servicing these kids very well with the Learning Center and providing a very flexible model, which is great. Now that flexible model in that context kind of goes out the window with such a large number. We can't do that. You know, you're dealing with 250 plus students. So we'll look at ways to accommodate them and provide those supports. And I have no doubt that our teachers will do an outstanding job. But it's going to be challenging because it's not what we normally do. And we got to bring more staff along with that. So will the numbers, my opinion, the numbers in CBVA right now will go down, would go down in the, I'll say the intermediate levels if they were given another option, an AB option or some other option. Again, talking to those parents, and I didn't talk to all of them, so I want to say that, but the ones I talked to, I just feel that they were opting for this because it was the only other option for them. That if they were given another look, that they would consider something else. I'm sure I'm helping much with that, but I'll say one last thing. Again, as Dr. Zakowski said earlier, in the elementary CBVA, since we've been running it, the number's been up and down. Historically, and history for us is like 2-3 years, so it's not like it's forever, has been around that 40 number, give or take. We're up at 240, 260, 270 right now because of COVID. Not because they want this for their child. They want this because of COVID. So if I was given another opportunity to rethink my decision as a parent, perhaps I would move a different direction if, you know, we reduce those class sizes and things of that nature.
I'm trying to think long-term. This is not going away anytime soon. We could look at this for another 18 months, another year, maybe longer.
I know we talked.
And you try to get it. It's a 5-day model too much from a long-term perspective? I'm thinking out loud. Because if we, the only thing is like, it's hard to predict what's going to happen, but if PDE, et cetera, they start reducing it, I think I'd rather reduce it now than later. Go a 5-day to something else just to get to that habit.
Okay.
Okay.
Or that model.
Board, make sure you talk into your microphone when you have something to say.
People in the back can't hear.
Was that not loud enough?
Correct. You need to
I thought that
talk.
was too loud.
No, you need to talk more into the mic.
Because people in the back can't hear.
I'm just trying to get ahead of this curve and ahead of the model. Is a 5-day week too much? Is going from a 5-day then back to a 3 days, 2 days, et cetera, based upon, and PDE is only giving guidelines. They're not giving any mandates, which doesn't help. I know every school district is different. If you're going to look at a city school district, or if you're going to look at a rural school district, et cetera. And there is no good answer to this puzzle, to this riddle. But I'm trying to come up with a model that works, that's long-term-ish, without causing a lot of change to our students.
I want to bring us back, Mr. Schertzer, to a comment Idette made earlier. There's been a lot of people with a lot of positions and opinions, and we're not going to make everybody happy, but we do have to make a decision.
Right.
Well, a question I was going to ask, I know we mentioned the possibility of looking into hiring additional teachers, but is there, like, would that work? Like, is there additional space to where they would be able to, where we'd be able to create other classrooms?
We would be hiring the additional staff to handle the virtual component, so we wouldn't necessarily need a lot of classroom space.
If we would, I think it's easier to be creative with space than it is a lot of other things. You can always cut a library in two, or gym in
Brownstone.
two, or, yeah, you have a large group room, becomes 2 classrooms, maybe not ideal, but somehow we seem to do better finding space than we do a lot of new creative ideas.
Where I'm not struggling, my mind's racing a million miles an hour. When you look at hiring more staff, that's a financial commitment. When you look at modifying a schedule, you can minimize the financial impact. So, like Julia said, I'm just looking for some direction on which way to go, and we will do the best we can.
Well, I think so far, okay, so I'm going to, and correct me if I'm wrong, so I would think some of the consensus that I hear coming from the board is that we are more in line with the middle school and high school where it's at. I feel like we're all kind of leaning like, yeah, those are good directions, because it gives our parents options, because that's what everybody's asking for. It gives our parents options that we feel like we're comfortable with, that the learning can be synchronous for those that don't always want to be in the school, can be asynchronous for those that are just comfortable with the CVVA model, and it gives those parents that need their kids or want their kids in school in person, they give them that option as well. So I think we have our middle school and our high school kind of in a direction and a path. Obviously, our hiccup right now, our bump in the road, is our elementaries. And so, and I guess I'm really kind of thinking back to this, like, or what, it does sound crazy a little bit, but what do half days look like? Is it even possible or not? I mean, I know we always did half-day kindergarten, and that was kindergarten, I get that. But I don't know.
It seems like if we did a full day model for everyone that needs to or wants their children there, and we did an A-B rotation for people who want less exposure, based on what Dr. Mann is saying from the parents that he's hearing from, you'd have the opportunity to meet the needs of our people that need to be in school full-time versus doing a half a day where you're then trying to figure out what half a day you're getting what. Your teachers are doing the same thing every day. Some kids are there full-time, some are there part-time and doing work at home with the support of their parents who want to do that, and then vice versa. I feel like that might provide more continuity, but.
Is it possible to do that, Dr. Z? Is it possible for us, and maybe this is a question, if I may indulge myself in asking one of our elementary principals to say something, is it an option that we could do have a 5-day-in-week person at an elementary and an AB at the elementary?
I think the challenge, and I'll let Sally, you can jump in after I'm done here, or Kelly, actually, or both, I don't care. But when you have the 5N, and then you have the AB on top of the 5N, are you also throwing in a virtual component to it? Because that's a real-time, because I'm thinking not only elementary, but I'm thinking even up the line. Because the problem was having 4 groups of students, where if you had CVVA only as an online option, then all you have is your 20 kids, and you're going to see 15 of them at a time because 5 are going to be virtual. So then can you manage the 5 virtual, even though tomorrow there'll be a different 5 virtual? And that's a question that I think teachers have to worry about, because they're saying, we can do whatever we can to make it work.
But I don't think we were talking about having them virtual, were we, Dr. Z? They would be not virtual on the days they weren't there. I know we're getting so many different plans, but wouldn't they be, if we did an AB model in elementary school, and tell me, you guys, if I'm hearing this wrong, we were talking about them doing work at home one day on their own asynchronously and in class one day, but maybe this is where our terms are getting a little complicated.
So asynchronous will be less complicated?
Yeah, that was my understanding, is that was based on what your information you've given us. It would be too hard that and I might not be summing this up right, but if I understand it, if we offered a program for the elementary school where they could come full-time, 5 days, like we said, come on an A-B rotation,
Right.
and have CVVA, what I'm hearing Dr. Mann say is that the large group that went to CVVA would most likely, again, we have to make a decision, and we can't predict the future, move over to an A-B model. But I might not be summing that up right, but that was my understanding.
Because right now, and keep in mind with the numbers, 240, 260 kids sounds like a lot. But we also have 2,400 elementary students.
Right. So we're talking 10%.
Kelly.
Go ahead, Kelly.
At the beginning of Dr. Z's presentation, he mentioned that we met with the teachers on Friday, and we proposed this synchronous real-time instruction to teachers in grades 4, 5, and 6. Their concerns were managing the kids in their classroom, right in front of them, and the kids at home on a screen. And the fact that elementary instruction is done in so many different ways, large group, small group, one-on-one, that kids at home would not be on a computer all day. They would not be engaged with the teacher all day either if they sat on the computer and watched the class. Because the teacher is really bouncing, and I don't mean bouncing to sound negative, going from group to group, small group to large group to small group, all day long, different subjects, and mixing up the groups and changing the groups so that in the classroom, the kids are with the teacher, and they have the mini lessons or the instruction, and then they have some independent time, and it's a lot of back and forth. So at home, it wouldn't be the same for a kid not in the classroom, and that's why the teachers chose on Friday not to go with that model, because they didn't think the kids at home would get the best experience.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
I think I get that. I've been in elementary classrooms, and it's a very dynamic environment. It's not a matter of lecturing or even teaching something off of the, you'll forgive me for dating myself, off of the blackboard and having kids follow you, and those at home following it on a screen. We don't do those sort of simple lecture demonstration lessons in elementary school. It's really more personal and interactive. So I understand why that doesn't work, to have real-time virtual. I get that, unfortunately.
Yeah, but if you have a real-time virtual, then your class sizes go smaller.
Kelly, did you guys talk about a non-real-time AB model at all? Like parents choosing to do half their work at home, half at school, and then parents having to address those issues at home?
No, we didn't talk about that kind of an AB schedule on Friday, because we thought that was off the table as of last Monday night,
Yeah,
right?
Kelly, you're right, because I don't think you all were even
Considering-
entertaining that at all for
Correct.
our reasons.
Right.
So here we are, back to the table. So if we offer the 5-day a week for those who want it, and then the AB model, but so A is in the classroom, B is doing something on Schoology, or somehow or another being engaged in another way, whether that be, I don't know, I'm just throwing people out there. Sorry if you're one of them. I don't mean to offend you. But if it's a guidance counselor or a teacher's aide, or if the music can do some sort of engaging thing like the special, something like that, I'm just thinking out loud. So that they would at least be engaged, but the teachers wouldn't necessarily have them sitting in a screen on their classroom trying to be engaged like that, because that clearly is not going to work at that level.
I think we're starting to sound like a school board that's desperate to come up with a solution. And I think maybe it's time we turn this over to the teachers and the administrators to see what they can come up with.
But we do have to give direction.
We have to give them direction.
Well, if they've been listening, they've gotten all sorts of directions to go down, and
Okay, so
I
I
leave it
guess,
to them to sort it out at this point.
so I guess, let me ask if this is the direction, board, that we're asking. So tonight, they're asking for us to give some type of action and motion towards something, right? Yes. I mean, that's what you're looking for, unless,
So we delay school till the what?
well, we
August
would have to
31st?
vote on that to push school back a week.
Okay. That's an action. That's an action.
That's an action item, correct.
That's decision.
The discussion that I'm hearing is, there's A-B discussion right now.
Just
So
for
I need
just
to-
for
Just at
elementary
an elementary
school.
level. I don't think we're discussing it. I think we're all satisfied with the middle school and high school options. I think we're concerned in discussing how do we facilitate classrooms. Sally?
The concern at the elementary level is class size.
Correct.
The class size issue is still an issue at the high school.
I don't think we know that yet, do we?
And then I will turn
You
it
won't know
Mr.
until
Thornton.
people sign up or don't sign up.
Go ahead, Sally.
Yeah, I think with regard to elementary, when we're discussing AB versus some other real-time option, I think it makes more sense for elementary students 4 to 6, for the staff, if we're looking at more of the real-time full synchronous option versus an AB. If you're a teacher doing AB, you're planning for all those kids in your classroom, and you're also planning for all those kids at home. Whereas maybe, we discussed that last week, but we were talking about teachers incorporating both at the same time. So they would have been, when we talked about that 4 to 6 option, it was you're having kids in front of you and you're also having kids at home, and you're trying to manage both of that. Maybe as elementary, we need to go back and say, okay, instead of doing it that way, can we do more of the middle school option where somebody would be assigned for the entire elementary level? I don't know that we're going to get enough kids in 4th grade who would choose that, or 5th grade or 6th grade, but maybe there's a multi-age approach, and 1 or 2 teachers are assigned specifically to that group, which is separate from, those who are teaching in the building. We had shied away from that because we wanted kids to be still assigned and feel a part of their home building, especially if kids end up coming back to bricks and mortar, that then they would already have that connection and they wouldn't feel that disconnect. But in light of the current situations, maybe we need to be, more creative and not worry so much about our home buildings and look at how we can do that across the 4 buildings rather than just trying to do it at each individual building.
And again, I agree with what Sally says. Our only concern, though, is when you assign a teacher to teach real-time virtual, that means he or she is not in a classroom. So your numbers don't go down. Because instead of putting them in CVVA, now you're just putting them in real-time virtual.
You're trading off the wrong kids.
Correct.
You're moving the shell.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're moving their shell at home, correct? They're not in school. Well, they're in school, but they're not physically in the building.
Well, we're not concerned about the building, we're concerned about the room, because
Wasn't
in
that-
elementary, the cohort stays together.
So is the root cause of the problem to reduce the number of students in the building?
Yes.
In a classroom.
So I'm hearing yes, I'm hearing no. So if the root cause is to reduce the number of kids in a building, some kids are going to have to be online,
In the classroom.
in a classroom, or et cetera.
At the elementary, they're in cohorts, and they basically stay in one classroom. And they don't move around the building. So it's not how many kids are in the building, it's how many kids are in each class.
Yeah, but they move around
Not in
math, science,
elementary.
et cetera. Yeah, in 4th grade, 6th grade.
They're not doing that, though. They're making.
Go for it, Sally.
The big question mark that we have is we don't know how many people would select another option. What we do know right now is we have 88 to 90% who have selected to send their kids back to school. That's what we do know. Those are the numbers we're dealing with. We have this other small percentage who have chosen CVVA, and maybe if they have a real-time option, many of them will probably switch to that because they want that direct connection with a teacher that they know or other kids that they're seeing live. But we don't know that it's going to necessarily have a huge influx from those who are choosing in person. And that's the only way you get lower numbers in person, is for additional ones to choose that real-time option. Because the CVVA option has been out there. It's been out there, yes, it's trickling, it's going up, but it's not reducing that great of a number within the building.
So you're saying to move people from CVVA to online virtual doesn't change the classroom?
Correct.
You need people to go from in the classroom to one of the others.
Right.
And we don't know what those choices would be.
Right.
That's clear enough, thank you.
Can we send out a survey?
Well, I think he's doing it tomorrow, Dr. Z?
I mean, it's got to be pretty immediate, and people,
Well, can we approve this, that's just hypothetical, can you approve the plan that we have in front of us now and amend things to it based on what is received from the community? Because, like Julia says, we have to do something. Even if we push the school week back another week, that only gives us 2 weeks yet. We have to make a decision. People are depending on us, again, on wherever you land, they're expecting us to make a decision to do something.
And we've had these discussions for weeks now and looked at every option, and they all have pluses and minuses, but, and so grateful to see our numbers continue to go down in the county, but this is my last meeting, but I would love to see us make a decision and provide direction for the school so we can move forward, and then we might have to reassess in the future, but to allow everybody to sort of take a step.
Is there any way that we could approve sections of the plan? For example, those that we feel comfortable with?
Well, how's that different if we approve the whole plan and then amend it later if they come up with something else for kindergarten or for elementary?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's
I
the
agree
same
with that.
difference, isn't it?
I think, Board, that the plan that we have in front of us, we like, minus
We like
some,
two-thirds of it.
some changes at the elementary level.
Some potential change.
Some potential changes at the elementary level. Because this is what we walked forward with. This is what we approved, like Dr. Z said in his presentation. This is what we approved before, 5 days a week, CVVA. That's what we approved, and that's kind of what we walked forward with. We have a lot of, well, we only hear from those that are looking for other options. We hear more from them than we do hear from the ones that are just completely satisfied with 5 days in a week or whatever. So why don't we, I'm throwing it out there, why don't we approve this plan as we see it with the idea that they need to come with, we need to still continue to work at the elementary level. I like Sally's idea that at least, like, let's think this thing broad. I understand that just going from CVVA to virtual, real, that doesn't necessarily do anything, but it's, we're continuing to talk about ideas. We're not going to make everybody happy. We're not going to please everyone, but we have those that want, those that don't, those that want this, those that want that, and we're still responsible to try to provide the best education that we can for our children.
Exactly.
The students that are in our mix. So we do need to make a decision to go forward tonight with something. Just to kind of table this thing for another week is not going to do any good.
I make the motion that we go with the plan that's being recommended by the administration.
Second.
All right. So I have a motion and a second. Roll call starting with Julia.
Aye.
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 Aye. No.
Aye. All right. So you have your marching orders.
Can I get some time?
Hmm?
Can I get some time?
Oh, wait. Yeah, I need a motion to, they also have asked to extend the school week, or to extend, or push back the start of the school by another week. So I will take a motion.
I move we extend, delay the school start date by a week as presented.
Second.
Roll call starting with Phil.
Aye.
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 And aye.
Just so we're clear on that, it's not a staggered start, right? It's a start date. It's not going to be staggered that week?
I think it will be the same start that was proposed before,
Just delayed a week?
Just delayed a week.
Okay, all right.
And I think as a board, we're asking you as an administration to continue to think creatively, specifically at the elementary level. I think I know none of this is ideal for anyone, but I feel like we are leaning, and we're majority pleased with the middle school and high school if we can just maybe get creative yet at the elementary. So I just want to, again, thank Dr. Z. I want to thank the administration. I want to thank teachers, everybody that's spoken into this process. This is not easy. It's not, there's not a cut and dried answer, or we would have been done with this a long time ago. But I thank you for all of your hard work, and I know that everyone will continue to work for the best. So
Are we having another meeting next week then? Is that,
I was just going to bring that up.
okay.
So you guys are going to put out a survey post haste of something, I would imagine.
Yes. We were going
You were intending to put out a survey anyway after we
I was
approved this.
intending to put out a survey with the options as approved.
Okay.
I'm not going to add additional options. So I'm not adding a a replacement option, I'm just adding the ones that were listed,
Correct.
the real-time virtual additions. Now, the only change, though, is to the plan, I would add real-time virtual to the elementary level. Because our proposal did not have, it only had CVVA.
Yes, but didn't our intermediate teachers say that just doesn't work for them?
The option, though, is if you want us to investigate more, if I have 35 kids taking in first grade, opting for real-time virtual.
Well, my problem is if it turns out all it does is take people from CVVA and
Yep.
put them in full-time virtual, then we have achieved nothing, and we're going to get people disappointed. They thought they picked something that then didn't do us any good.
Okay, then I will survey the middle school and the high school only, and we will move on with the real-time virtual option at that level.
I think with the idea that you guys will still try to get creative at the elementary level.
Correct. We'll work both as an admin team and as with the administrator, or the association.
Dana, you look like you have something to say.
I just want to make sure we have a meeting next week. I want to know what's going on.
Okay,
I don't want to wait until the middle of September to find out.
sure,
Do you want to make a motion?
sure.
Yes, I'll move we have a special board meeting next Monday night.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so whatever you need to do to post that, Dr. Z, we're going to have another meeting Monday night.
That'll be done.
It'll be here, same bat time, same bat channel. All right. Moving on in our agenda, let's see here. Board, you have the two reports in front of you, finance and operations, and, well, actually, no reports these months, so sorry about that. Dr. Z, any federal funds tonight?
No, sir.
Idette, do you have anything that you'd like to?
I'll do this real quick. The IU program to promote the cyber academies of local schools has expanded to WGAL. PSBA has added another advocacy issue on liability. There will be an election that I assume will be put on our agenda when the time comes. I'll have a recommendation. I'm missing. We did get a report through them that it's safe to say responses, if you remember that program, have gone down considerably, but most of them are related to self-harm and suicide now.
Yep.
So all of our fears for that are right, but they do have that Safe to Say program, which I'm sure is being a big help. And last of all, I do have some information on conference. Conference, although it's virtual, is free this year. So all you have to do is go onto my PSBA and sign up, and even if you only want to go to one session, you can go. If you only want to hear the speakers, you can do just that. So while it's free, it's 2 days, I suggest you all sign up for it. It's not going to be free forever, folks.
All right, thank you, Idette. Is Fred in the building?
He actually was, but
Okay.
he needed to go
Okay.
retrieve his daughter.
Okay. Can you give us a,
We'll get his report.
yeah, do you have any comments for us, Phyllis, or anything about how things are going at Brownstown? All right, seems like everything's kind of coming together.
Yeah, so we had a preliminary walkthrough with the inspector today. He will be back on Wednesday to do some final stuff to see if we can certify the occupancy. But everything looked good today, it was very positive. Still plenty of work happening over there, so lots of things to be finalized and cleaned up. And the areas that we were not, so there's a phase going into the year that is not going to be done. So the building won't be completely done, but we knew that. That was part of the plan. So we're looking good for the classroom spaces to be ready and available to teach from.
All right. All right, this is the second time in our meeting for public comments. If there are any more comments from the public, you're free to come. Kind of hang out here for a little bit. Is anybody coming? Dr. Daniker, anybody coming? Nobody? All right.
Yes, there is, actually.
Oh, there is? Okay.
I'll take this off. My name's Dan Daniker. I'm at 2262 Old Philadelphia Pike. And I didn't want to talk before you debated. I just want to say I've seen amazing things from the teachers and the administration as they're faced with these types of things. And I have faith that they will actually find some great ideas. And they have done amazing, tremendous things in the classroom with my own children and my daughter who will be a senior. So I have faith they'll figure this out and they'll provide. There'll be bumps in the road. It's not going to be perfect. Nothing ever is, but I still have faith.
Thank you, Dr. Daniker. All right. This is any board comments or announcements?
I just want to say thank you to Josh for whatever work you did behind the scenes. I'm sure it was time-consuming, and it is very much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Board, you see the predetermined dates of September's meetings, but also note now that we have a board meeting next Monday. All right, and with that, Board, I will take a motion to adjourn to executive session for personnel reasons.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?